What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. It's January 3rd, 2026, about 8:20 p.m. But y'all don't give a fuck about me. Y'all are just asking about my wife. Y'all, I said I was going to do a live stream today. Y'all said, where Acti? I'm like, you know what? Fuck y'all. Eat a dick.
Don't hate because the people love me and they want me.
You know,
Why are you jealous?
I understand because I'm an asshole and you're an angel, so that's how it works out.
You're not an asshole. Don't say that.
I am
yourself.
definitely an asshole. I almost got your uncle killed in Turkey. Should I tell that story?
Sure.
Should I tell that story?
Yeah.
So I got this new flower jacket. I posted it on my channel, and we were going out to get some donor late at night. And this flower jacket automatically gets people's attention, besides the fact I'm a handsome, melanated chocolate man in very, very pasty Turkey. And this drunk guy comes up to me and tries to shake my hand. And I don't be shaking random people's hands, especially if they sloppy drunk. This man was... Boy, in Turkey, there's a lot of sloppy drunks.
Well, we were at like a drunk food place.
We were.
Yeah.
We were. I was acting. But I was like, hey, he put his hand out like this, and I look at, you know how niggas be looking at your hand and it just make you feel played? I guess it don't make you feel played in Turkey. It make you feel like entitled to shake a nigga's hand. So I don't want to shake this man's hand. He start getting buck with me, and then some other guy across the room is telling me, like, calm down, brother, calm down, calm down. And he kept saying calm down so much, it started to bother me. Because he just kept on talking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know I was being an asshole then. Because he was like, he kept saying calm down, like for 5 minutes.
It wasn't his business. Like, he had nothing to do with the event. He didn't know the other guy. I don't know why he was being such a, he was just jumping on the opportunity to like start a fight.
The drunk guy was trying to start a fight. You know what I mean?
The other guy too.
No, but the other guy, he wasn't. I don't think he was trying to start a fight. Maybe he was drunk too, but he just wouldn't shut up, and it got so annoying. Like, you know how people be fighting outside, and then one guy is like, "All right, calm down, everything's cool." This one guy kept saying, calm down, everything's cool, after everything was cool. And that's what was annoying. So then I start turning up on him, and I tell him, shut the fuck up. And I stick my tongue out at him, like I was just being silly. You know what I mean? And I was sober, too. Maybe it was because I was sober all December, and I probably had not gotten any pussy while I had been in Marmaris for some time.
That is not true. All of my efforts just deleted in one single sentence.
I was just fishing for that. I was just fishing and caught that. I'm sorry.
Not true.
Anyway, that happens, and then out of nowhere, the roughest looking henchman of the Gambino family breaks into the restaurant, and it's her fucking 5'4" uncle who looks like he knows where the bodies are buried. And this nigga comes in with his hands behind his back and gets all up in the other dude's face like, "What you gonna do, bitch? What you gonna do?" in Turkish.
Yeah, he was saying, "This is my nephew and her husband. What do you want?" Disturbing them?
Number one, I didn't know that you were a nephew.
I mean, niece. You know what I mean?
Yes, he was insane. He was going, yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was a stupid ass story.
I have to say, but the whole situation was kind of also silly, like how the other guys reacted, because you came in like with the suit and everything. At first, the guys at the counter thought I was Simon's interpreter.
Yes, I was that fancy.
Yes, and they were like, when they kicked out the first drunk guy, they were like, we're so sorry, like we're from the embassy or something.
That's insane. I was just look stupid as hell. I can't wear that suit, man. I really like suits, and I really like tacky clothes. So my love for suits and tacky clothes is probably going to get me killed or somebody else killed.
Don't say that.
Why
would it get you killed?
Because that situation made me realize, like, number one, your uncle is probably Italian. and two, I don't need to be out here causing havoc for the streets. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't because of your suit, though. Nothing started because of the suit.
Oh, so you're saying because I'm black?
No, it was because the guy was drunk.
Okay, but he wasn't shaking everybody's hand. You know why?
There were only
thought
we were there, and then the other guy who started shouting at you was there.
He thought I was famous. He wanted to shake a rich nigga's hand.
Something like that.
And then he was very disappointed when I stood up and I'm 5'7". And he's like, this nigga is not a professional basketball player. I thought this was LeBron James.
Yeah, he was not like, he's just an ignorant, drunk Turkish man.
Yes.
But it wasn't because of your suit.
But I also appreciate you hiding all the racial slurs. He slid in there when he was talking.
No, I mean, I would expect that, but it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
No.
All right, well, look at that. We solved racism. I just want to be able to get into a fight with a white man and not have a slur come out.
Yeah, no, they were just saying like, oh, like, why are you such a dandy and all that type of thing.
Well, I am a dandy. I'm fancy, bitch. I'm fancy.
But everyone liked your flower suit.
I know everybody does like my flower suit. That's why I got it. But I can't wear it because I might get killed.
You won't.
I probably will get killed for it. Anyway, we're supposed to be watching a documentary instead of ranting and shit. But I'm waiting for my guy Nelson to join. But he's up in here, man. Anyway, acting.
Yeah.
This documentary was a request from our longtime subscriber and friend. I don't know if you saw the first episode. Did you? Okay.
Sorry.
Do you know what the documentary is about?
I was cooking here at some point when you were doing the live stream. So I just heard like COINTELPRO and like some of the conversation, but not really. I know it's like political. I heard Illuminati.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's a very artistic, avant-garde documentary. You know how most documentaries, they start off with like a topic, a problem, and follow that problem and narrative. Mm-hmm. This one's like, yeah, toilet paper was invented by the Nazis, and hey, look at these furries over here. Aren't they cute? Oh yeah, by the way, the cell phone in your pocket emits radiation, and wine keeps your heart healthy. And, oranges were actually invented by the Polynesians, and, bras actually help women stand up better. Like crazy shit. That's this documentary.
Okay. Will I be able to understand watching from the second episode?
I won't understand watching from the second episode. But no, if I'm going to keep it real, like the documentary is about individualism, the desire of people to want to be free, and the limits on our freedom from the systems we create.
What does that have to do with individualism?
Because many of the systems we create try to promote individualism or promote human freedom. But instead, a lot of the times they oppress human freedom.
Because the right way is collectivism, duh.
Yeah, I would argue that.
Coming from a collectivist culture, I would attest to that.
Okay. I'm very interested to get your take, and I think the people want to hear your take. They don't want to hear my take.
Wow.
So what we're going to do is we're going to watch every 10 minutes and then pause and react. And the documentary is about 1:14, and we're going to put it on 1.5 speed. So it's not too long. So every 10-minute mark we pause and then discuss what we saw.
Okay.
All right, that's it. And anybody who wants to join the live stream, you're welcome to join, okay? And let us know what you think.
Have you ever been to a labour exchange? The last time I went there, I was paid my money by a Sikh. A Sikh sitting there with his turban and a Bengal on his hand. Now, I was 3 years with the Indian Army in India. I was 3 years in India in civilian life. I got on well with Sikhs, Hindus, the whole lot of them. But to walk into a British labour exchange and find you're being paid out your money by a Sikh, these are the people that in my small way, I help train and educate. To go to a labour exchange is not a very edifying experience at all. You change into your old clothes to go to the labour exchange. But you've got to go.
Edgar Mittelholzer had come to England in the 1950s from British Guiana, and he had become a best-selling novelist. What Mittelholzer wrote about was violence, the violence and the racism that had been at the heart of the European empires. Mittelholzer believed that it still haunted the minds of those who had ruled the empires. One of his most famous stories, My Bones and My Flute, is about a group of colonialists who travel up a river into the jungle in Guyana. They're searching for the remains of a giant slave rebellion in the past, guided by an old manuscript. But anyone who reads the manuscript starts to hear the distant sound of a flute, and they change. They become possessed by something that is reaching out from the jungle and working its way into their minds. It is the anger and the fear of the slave owner who put down the rebellion. But it will not let them escape. And Mittelholzer himself became angry, with England. He saw it as a decaying, corrupted country.
I think we've reached a stage, when we've become so soft, so effete, I think you said those words, so effete, that we feel that, well, even criminals must be mollycoddled.
And you feel so strongly that you're prepared to go as far as to say that there are human beings who should be categorized as vermin.
Vermin, exactly. Right. Anyone who is guilty of violence to the human person and to property should be considered as human vermin and eradicated. I know it's just a violent thing to advocate, but I can't see any other cure to the crime problem.
This is too fast
Every
for you.
evening, he sat with his wife in his house in Surrey, listening to the music of Wagner. Until one night, Mittelholzer walked up the hill by his house, poured paraffin over himself, and set himself alight.
Jesus
Damn.
Christ. Jesus
He
Christ.
burned to death. The anger and the fear had reached out to the colonized too. In 1966, engineers monitoring Chinese television from a mountain in Hong Kong began to realize that something unusual was happening in Beijing. China was sealed off from the rest of the world, but what they saw were hundreds of thousands of people streaming in from other cities and the countryside. By August the 11th, 1.5 million people had assembled in Tiananmen Square. Most of them were students or schoolchildren. Then, Mao Zedong appeared on the balcony above them. Mao Zedong and his wife Jiang Qing had unleashed a new force in China. These were what Mao called the Little Devils of Youth. He told them that they were going to save the revolution. Their job was to go and seek out the demons and the monsters who were corrupting the revolution. No one should be safe, he said. They should all be torn down and smashed to pulp. The new revolutionaries gave themselves a name, the Red Guards. Jiang Qing now had great power. She saw herself as equal to Mao. But she was convinced that the threat to the revolution also came from inside people's minds. She knew that even though China had gone through a revolution, little had changed inside the heads of millions of the people, including those in power. They still believed in a rigid hierarchy. She had been scorned as a woman by the other revolutionaries around Mao. They had done anything they could to stop her. Jiang Qing had rewritten old Chinese operas into epic melodramas about the need to challenge and destroy the old order. All the old figures of authority were banished. Instead, the ordinary people, including women, took centre stage. They were performed to millions of young Red Guards, and in talks before the performances, Jiang Qing told the audience how what they were about to watch were heroes awakening and realising that they could take control.
Till today, I still vividly remember the first time I saw the revolutionary play. I was about 14 or 13 years old. And there was a rush of emotion, of identity. I was so excited. Suddenly, I saw those plays after Jiang Qing's talk that night. And suddenly what she was saying made sense to me, that there was a fundamental difference between the revolutionary art and the traditional art. There was something in the play about the working class emotions and working class world outlook, and just the flamboyance of the working class figure on stage moved me. That is my society, that's my life. That's the people I see, that's the people I live with, and they're on stage.
Mao and Jiang Qing suspended all schools and universities, which released 120 million students, who were then sent out to find and destroy the demons that were hiding among those in authority.
Our teachers were often paraded through the streets, and we made them chant, "I'm a demon, I'm a devil. I deserve to die." That's the song, and they had to sing it. And they all sang. Whoever didn't got beaten up, some very badly. We used our belts to whip them. Some people used sticks. And the mother of this teacher was pushed over a bridge and fell to her death.
L'impérialisme dicte partout sa loi. La révolution n'est pas un dîner. La bombe est pratique en papier. Les masses sont les véritables héros. Les ricains tuent et moi je mets Mao Mao. Les bombes tonnent et moi je sonne Mao Mao.
Horst Mahler had been born in what was now East Germany. His father had been a fervent Nazi and an anti-Semite. In 1945, his family fled across Germany from the approaching Red Army. Then his father committed suicide. Mahler grew up in West Berlin, and everything was buried. In 1964, Mahler joined a new group called the APO, the Extra Parliamentary Opposition. They knew that many of those in charge of the country had been senior members of the Nazi Party. But no one talked about it, and they wanted to expose the Nazi crimes of those in charge and challenge their control of the country.
There was the memory knocking at the door, and we asked our parents and our grandfathers, what did you do in all this time? Did you resist, or had you been...
All right, so that's the first 10 minutes of part 2 of Can't Get You Out of My Head. I have my opinions, but y'all came to hear Acti. So, Acti, what do you think about it?
Okay, so, I mean, the part I remember... Okay, this is kind
Just
of
anything,
my fact.
anything, yeah. Anything
Okay.
you remember, anything you think. Here, let's rewind it a bit if you want. So this guy who wrote the book about being in Guyana.
Yeah. Okay, I forgot what I was going to say about this guy. Because then I was focusing on the Chinese story.
Number one, what I found interesting about his story, you know, he wrote this book about these British guys who are basically colonialists in South America, where they brought slaves and Indians to work the sugarcane fields there. And the empire is falling apart, but the racism that was used to control the empire still stayed in the minds of the people. And I thought that was very interesting how he tied the idea of the flute that still sings in the mind like a certain song to memory, or a collective memory people have of the past. You know what I mean? I thought that was that's a great way to describe like how the war comes home and how a country's or a nation's or an empire's past still echoes through time like a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's a good point, because I guess like when we look at our, just a simple example, like national anthems and things like that, they're all like, I would say, yeah, like, because we've been to Turkey and we talked a lot about like the Kurdish problem in Turkey, right? The Kurdish and Turkish relationship. So that was kind of lighting up in my head a little bit when all of this was playing. But yeah, it's like, you know, what do those people who are minorities who have been disadvantaged in certain countries feel when they hear a national anthem?
Yeah. And a lot of the times the national anthem is like, we did this, we conquered that, we fought against this group and they not like us. You know what I mean? That's essentially every national anthem. But I also thought it was interesting that he writes this sort of anti-racist, anti-colonial book, but he's a fucking Nazi. He's listening to Richard Wagner, which was the, you know, Nazi, literally a Nazi composer. Yeah. And he's saying that, yeah, we need to call some criminals vermin. There are some people that are human scum. And I'm like, once again, like the lengths that people go to do everything but be on the right side of history. You know what I mean? To actually be, to realize that the demons that they've created are destroying themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that's also like some sort of side effect of racism or being oppressed, is that I think some people, and very normally and understandably, might develop like some sort of syndrome. It's like an inferiority syndrome, right? It's like what they adopt from the colonizers.
Yeah.
That like, okay.
Well, he's a British man, so he was a colonizer.
Well, yeah, but he, you know, his lineage is from Guyana.
No, but he was a British man who went there as a part of the colonialist project.
Oh, I thought he was from there.
No, Guyana's a very black place. Guyana.
I didn't know it's black and white. Maybe he's a mixed person. I don't know.
So the man is white. The man is white. Wait, you know what? Then again, maybe I'm wrong. That man. See? Charles, is that you, Charles? that's that nigga Charles, man. Charles over here playing. Wow. Yeah, he might be. There's a little texture, contour in that hair, boy.
Anyway, it doesn't matter if he is like, you know, a colonizer or colonized. It's like, it's that inferiority complex, I think, that like starts with the colonizer and even sometimes ends up with the colonized that's living within the mainland. You know, like all the immigrants, sometimes they go insane and they become MAGA, or they become like the people who don't want any more immigrants when they are immigrants, like Nicki Minaj.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
yeah.
I mean, maybe. Now looking at him, that brother does look like he got a little,
Oh, now he's a brother.
Yeah, and this is top level cooning. If you're listening to Richard Wagner with your Pog, and I think he had a Pog. Yeah, this is next level cooning. He's in here with his Pog, and then sets himself on fire, bruh. Okay, I'm done. Enough with this man. Enough. Be gone. I gotta say, I really want to see these Mao era, revolutionary plays. I have to find these and watch these because these look fire. I don't know why. These look so fucking cool. And the Cultural Revolution in China is I think it deserves more study. The way generally people blanket the Cultural Revolution, they say, it was just a bad time where, China became despotic and crazy. But I think there's probably more to that. I don't know. What do you think about that part?
I mean, this part when the lady was talking about nationalistic art and traditional art, I thought that was very an important point to think about because and I was also kind of, because this is it's talking about the students who are kind of making this revolution and culture shift, right, with some propaganda, I would assume. I think that's what most nations use. Maybe it's not as strict or as strong as what happened in China, but I think every nation used this to a level. As a kid, it's so powerful. Even if you leave out certain topics, that's mind. It's still mind washing.
Yeah.
For example, in my class. And once again, I've been contemplating about this, so this is the example I'm going to give. We don't talk about the Kurdish revolutions. We don't talk about, the history of Kurdish people in our country, in our history lessons. We don't talk about, transatlantic slavery in our history lessons. It's just, it's said in one word, and then nothing else is mentioned. But we talk about Anne Frank. Why is that? Or why are certain things mentioned and certain things are not? I think even just that, something as simple as that, it gets into your head. And when you hear those things from outside later, because when you get education, teachers and books are very trustful for a student, right? Those are the things you can say this is absolutely correct and absolutely right.
Yeah.
And when you hear things from outside, it doesn't feel, as truthful as the books or the education that you got. So I think every country uses this to an extent.
Yeah, I think what makes the Cultural Revolution kind of special though is the idea that instead of, like you said, it was still propaganda. They had the revolutionary plays, but the idea is let the young people just run this shit. Just burn the whole thing down. Fuck Confucius. Fuck the Great Wall. Fuck 1,000 years of Chinese history. We're starting anew. Year zero. And it's very radical. The intention is something I can honestly kind of get behind. The intention. I don't know about the execution because once again, I think there's more study that has to be done with the Cultural Revolution. But the general framework, I like the idea.
Would you do it for America?
A cultural revolution? I don't think we need to go that far. I think that there are certain aspects of American culture that need to be totally revolutionized. But the thing is, I don't trust Americans to do a full cultural revolution because I think there's too much racism inherently within us. We're this close away. We're not that far away from doing a Holocaust. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can imagine in my own lifetime camps. Yeah. Gas chambers, firing squads on groups of people.
Yeah, but that's the thing of Cultural Revolution. It's what China did. Yeah, not all of it was good. But it was someone said something racist, bam, you are being belted by the students on the streets.
Right.
You have to call yourself the devil because you said a racial slur.
I know there's a few teachers you want to belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
You too. I know you do.
Oh boy, yeah, well, quite a few. There was one more part that we were talking about. Yeah, they started talking about this guy whose dad was a Nazi, and he ended up growing up in West Brooklyn, stuff like that. But yeah. By the way, Nelson is up in here. What's up, Nelson, man? Any comments you got to say on the first 10 minutes?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I thought it was like what happened. I'm sorry. What happened in these 10 minutes? I was trying to get in the thing.
Okay, but I think you saw it before, right? So you saw this documentary.
Yeah, let me see. I'll see it real quick.
They talk about the.
So yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's string. I'm so bad with Chinese. Xin Qing.
Yeah.
Mao's side chick.
Yeah, I think his wife, but okay. Yeah, but go ahead.
No, he was a side chick. If I'm not wrong, he had sex with a virgin every day, every night.
Oh, Mao was getting it in. Mao was a beast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are we praising that?
I'm not praising it.
I don't know what I was supposed to say.
Not you, Nelson. Simon.
Anyway, let's do this.
Okay.
Let's watch the next 10 minutes. We're going to do...
Wait, let me just say. So what I thought was interesting was that like she had a lot of rage, obviously, that she was carrying for years. And she was like really good at bringing the rage up. But like all that... she was not promoting any real structural change. She was really like promoting like scapegoating, if I'm making sense. It's like they were like destroying people, but they weren't destroying the underlying hierarchy, if I'm making sense. Like the rage was real, and the use of rage is good. But they had no real like coherent replacement structure. So it was like bullying, suicides, purges, raping, and then like tens of millions were like persecuted, and from 500,000 to 2 million, I think, perished or something. So like Mao and his mentally ill side chick were going absolutely wild, and it was really funny to see like the leftists in the West making songs about Mao, idiots, and I'm very interested to see where Mola story is about to go, and we're about to see a finish a course, so that's gonna be cool.
I mean, you know, while Mao did have his faults, and also, you know, Ling Qiang might have been motivated by revenge or whatever, right? We have to remember that, you know, Mao and the party lifted almost 1 billion people out of poverty and turned China into from one of the poorest countries into the world into arguably the richest, most influential, powerful nation right now. You know what I mean?
So have you seen Watchmen? Have you seen the movie Watchmen?
No, I haven't seen the movie Watchmen, but what does it have to do with it?
So there's this character, right? He has bombs all over the planet, right? Over capital cities, and he explodes those people, right? Like millions of people die. But at the same time, he stops like the world ending, right? He stops the Cold War.
Right.
And then he goes like, yeah, I killed millions of people, but I saved trillions of people. So what about that? That's like, I'm not really on that logic.
There's as today is a historic day, Nelson. Today is a historic day. We found out today that there's no such thing as international law and sovereignty. Portugal is not a real country. Hungary is not a real country. Turkey is not a real country. There's only 3 real countries in the world: America, Russia, China. There's no such thing as any sort of rights, or all we have is what can do the best for the most people. And what can do the best for the most people is trying to lift them out of poverty. So while you might say, oh, you know, there's moral equivalency, or there's some sort of balance that needs to be had when we save lives or kill lives, there's no such thing as anything right. There's no good or evil in this world. There's only what you can do. I just don't like
psychopathy. From what I've seen, that he looks like a psychopath.
Who?
Mao.
Mao looks like a psychopath?
For me, he looks like a psychopath.
All right. And Trump is one as well. And George Washington.
Of course. If the fucking Mao is like, what is Trump, man?
Right.
Of course Trump is a psychopath. That's not a question.
Right. And, I mean, you have to pick the psychopath you like. Which cycle? That's
I don't know, man. I don't think like that, man. I think there's a lot of good leaders out there.
All right. I'm picking the psychopaths I like because that's all we can do.
All right. All right.
I'm sorry.
Y'all are funny. Y'all are passive aggressive bros. Anyway. I think, like, you know, if you're in politics, things are going to go to shit and you're going to be a shitty person. Like right now, you know, Zoran is the mayor of New York and most people adore him right now on the left, but we know he's going to do some bad stuff and people are going to turn on him at the end of the day. But it's like what happens? That's the problem with politics and nations.
There's bad stuff and there's killing millions of people, man. There's levels to this. Like I can tolerate bad stuff, but like not crazy stuff.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying what Mao did was like completely good or he was the perfect like leader, but I mean, yeah, you're never gonna have like that one person that did everything right, other than maybe a revolutionary, which never or hardly ever becomes the president. And most of the time, when they become the president, something goes wrong, and they also do some fucked up shit.
If Bandani got into power, he's a socialist, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not like Mao, but he's a socialist, right?
Yeah.
Do you really think Mamdani will mismanage things to such a point that like fucking 5 million or 6 million people die?
Of course not. He can't do that. And
of course not.
Yeah, he
you
wouldn't.
Think you
do
know
that.
Thomas Ankara?
Ankara what?
He's talking about Thomas Sankara.
Oh. What? I don't know him.
You think if he got to power, you think all those people will die? Not even Castro was doing that, man.
Okay, once again, I'm not saying Mao is did the right thing.
Who was doing the crazy shit? There's two people who were doing some really crazy shit. It was Stalin, it was Mao. This is two guys.
Okay, I agree with you. Those are not my idols or anything like that. I'm just saying, yeah, most of the time I don't, look up to politicians or I don't look up to, people like that. Yeah, maybe their ideologies might be good or might make sense, but they're, in the practical, they never work and they cost people their lives. And, yeah.
I don't know if you saw the previous episode, but what happened, Mao was getting cooked. He was about to get put out of there. He called his side chick, who was put in an asylum, by the way. I mean, she was put there because, she was a political liability, but she had friends with monkeys. She had a lot of monkey friends. So make of that what you will.
She didn't watch the previous episode.
I didn't watch
All right,
it.
let's do this. We're going to watch...
You should like a cracker.
We're going to watch the next 10 minutes and react, because he can't just get stuck here. All right?
Okay, sorry.
Next 10 minutes.
All this time, did you resist, or had you been a little Nazi, or had you been an opportunist? And this discussion was blocked by the other generation, and so it became hostile.
The student movement was astonished by the violent reaction of the German government. And Horst Mahler and other radicals began to think that the problem was far deeper than just individual Nazis. But maybe the whole Nazi system had also survived, and was hiding behind the facade of modern capitalism. They argued that the very system of industrial rationality and bureaucratic control that had made the Nazi state so efficient had simply mutated. It had been taken up by the victors, above all by America, and was now being used to run the new global capitalism and the multinational corporations that were ruthlessly exploiting what was called the Third World. Anything that stood in the system's way was bombed or burnt, with weapons created by the same rational industrial techniques that made the mass consumer goods. But the people in the West couldn't see this, because they had been led into a dream world that used mass consumerism and sexualized imagery to entrance and distract everyone. In reality, it was an iron cage, designed to look like an open and free welfare state, a false state of peace that was built really on horror and war.
We were convinced that our situation here, the welfare state, is only possible as a result by the exploitation of the Third World. And we said we must disturb this peace, this false peace in our country, in order to show the responsibility of us, that it is our task to implement sabotage in the centers of imperialism.
black power. Address your arrest, Brown. Of course, racists are doing it again, but that's not going to end the burning in Detroit, brother, because we built the country up and we'll burn it down, honkies and all. Mr. Brown, don't you tell them to burn down that school? Be serious, I ain't got to tell black folks what to burn. Did you tell them to shoot Lady Bird? Did I tell them to burn down Detroit? Did I tell the Americans to bring black people here? Did you tell them to shoot Lady Bird? I say if they give me a gun and tell me shoot my enemy, I might shoot you. Where have you met this bill? Oh, well.
Non-violence is okay, but you get nowhere with non-violence. I like violence.
Malcolm X started, but King finished.
Malcolm X set the idea. He rooted it rather in the minds of many blacks. He really started the ball rolling.
You feel that violence is necessary in order to get rid of what you would call the oppression?
He wouldn't get rid of it, but it will open, some of whitey's eyes to say, well, we're not joking. We really mean what we say.
Do you find yourself really hating white people?
Yes. Some people hold grudges, and I do. Look how they treat. How many flows did my great-grandmother strew? How many babies did she take care of that wasn't hers? Stuff like that. And I'm just one of those people with old things.
Alice Faye Williams had been born in North Carolina. She had run away from home when she was young because she was frightened of her violent father. And she came to New York when she was 15. She managed to get a place to study at the School of Performing Arts. Then one day, on 125th Street in Harlem, she listened to a speech by Bobby Seale, one of the leaders of the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers believed that the only way to stop racism in America was for black people to get power. Simply changing the law was not enough. The anger and the fear remained hidden away in millions of people's minds. The solution was black power. And the first person to articulate this was Stokely Carmichael, on a civil rights march in Mississippi, on one day when the more moderate Martin Luther King was absent.
So I just made a speech building up to it, building up, showing that it wasn't a question of morality, it wasn't a question of being good or bad, it was simply a question of power. And that we black people had no power, and we had to have some power. The only type of power we could have is black power. Black power.
We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. That's right, that's what we want, black power.
They responded immediately in a healthy manner. Dr. King came back the next day, but it was too late then. Black power had been established.
Alice Williams decided to join the Black Panthers. She became a member of a new chapter that had been set up in Harlem, and she changed her name to Afeni Shakur. She later explained what the Panthers meant for her. For the first time, she said, there was now something I could do with all this aggression and all this fear inside me. The Panther Party at that time took my rage and channeled it against them, instead of against us. They educated my mind and gave me direction, and with that direction came hope.
Oh, there were. I saw in the precinct a number of men and women being brought in. I had contact with some of the women when we were in swollen lips and so forth. And from what most of them said, they were just walking along the street, and most of them were pushed or hit with a club. And when they, protested the fact that they were being hit for nothing, then they were beaten and arrested.
We teach children that the policeman is a friend. In Harlem, however, although I know that there are policemen who are friendly and kind and decent and fair, this type of policeman is a real thing.
Hey? The others go and lean late. I do shows in aid of people like you.
Michael de Freitas had been a gangster. He had worked as an enforcer for the notorious slum landlord Peter Rackman. But now he wanted to be a revolutionary. Then one day he met the American black leader Malcolm X, who was on a tour of England. They began to travel around the country together. When they arrived in Birmingham, the hotel receptionist thought that Michael de Freitas was Malcolm X's brother, and he called him Michael X. De Freitas decided that in the future, this was going to be his revolutionary name.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He was going to lead a revolution in Britain.
Oh, God.
Michael X soon became famous.
I would hate to be described as a politician because they're all such liars and thieves. If I'm going to deal in the realms of that type of public relations, I'd rather think of myself in terms of being a statesman, which is an art that this country has long since forgotten. Like, we have no statesmen today. I'm probably the only one in the country. Unfortunately, we find that the people of pale pigmentation are people who are so barbaric. Like, for instance, right now this country, which is run by those type of people, have got more weapons of destruction.
All right. That was the next 10 minutes from the 10-minute mark to the 20-minute mark. Acti, what are your thoughts about anything you saw right there?
First of all, I love the people of pale pigmentation. That's funny. But yeah, just the first part where they talk about like, you know, capitalism and how it sort of was like presented to us as something that was the problem solver, right? But that just relied on taking things from third nations and the poor and the weak and the meek, and yeah, used all of those resources to paint our eyes as consumers. And I thought, like, yeah, of course we all know this, but I can't stop reminding myself constantly that it's really hard to not be part of this type of system. Like, even as we're consciously sitting here talking about capitalism, thinking that it's bad, not supporting it, yeah, you're still buying things, you're still surviving, you still have bosses. And I have to constantly remind myself of that every day, you know, to participate as less as I can to capitalism, if that makes sense. So that's what I thought about the first part.
Yeah, I'm wondering where the documentary is going, talking about this guy who was noticing that Western Germany was still integrating Nazi, like literal Nazis into the system, right, after denazification. And I think the documentary is going to start talking about the Red Army faction. And if you don't know who the Red Army faction was, during the time that Germany was split until 1990, there was this group of young militant Germans who were setting off bombs and killing people and kidnapping politicians who were a part of the German government at the time, who were Nazis in the past. And I wonder if the documentary is going that direction. I'm wondering what's going to happen here. When it comes to the Black Power and Black Panther part, what did you think about that, if anything?
Yeah, I think it was like very, you know, it was very touching, and it is like a very, I guess, painful time in the history for like, but also glorious, I would say, because now there is no Black Panther Party, and I don't know, maybe you can tell me that I'm wrong, but it feels like Black Americans feels more divided, and back then at least there was a certain place, like she said here, that there was a place where you can go and take out your anger and do something about it. And I feel like maybe that place does not exist anymore. But other than that, obviously, like, I support the liberation of any oppressed group. Maybe just a tiny critique, because I don't want to just say like everything is good and smooth, is that like there was one guy, I don't know his name, but he was saying like we need Black power because that's the thing we're missing. And it kind of feels like a little bit of the stepping stones of Black capitalism that we have today, that is seen as like liberation for Black people, which is not. That was just something that I thought about when that came on.
This is why I like you, because you're smart. You're smart. Yo, you're smart as hell, bro. Let me rub your little head, bro. Come here. Let me just rub your little head. Let me bite it.
Okay, stop.
No, but I was so worried that you were about to say, you know, Black power sounds a little bit like white power. That's what I thought you were going to say. Like white? Like it's the same, but yo, you're smart. You caught that exactly. Yes, that is one of the biggest problems people take from the Malcolm X, the Huey P. Newton, Black Panther whole aesthetic. They hear Black power and they say, Black-owned business, buy Black, Black suburbs. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the idea. Like, the Black power he was talking about was Black political power, social power, taking control of the communities. The idea simply of Black power is the idea, instead of calling the police if you have a problem in the community, you call 1-800-Black Panther and them niggas show up. Instead of going to the white man's hospital and the white man's school, we got our own hospitals and own schools to take care of us. Not whole business sections and just ripping each other off through capitalism. That was very cool. Rest in peace to H-Rap Brown. They showed H-Rap Brown in here. He recently died about a month ago. Rest in peace to him. Rest in peace to Stokely Carmichael as well. And shout out to this young sister, whoever she is, who just say, yeah, I hate white people. Because sometimes somebody got to say it. Yeah, man. Oh, but yeah, Nelson, you there? Any comments on anything we saw right here? If he's there. And shout out to Afeni as well, man. Y'all need to watch that 3-part documentary on Afeni. It is so good. Now, I'm not going to be that guy who's out here.
Am I on?
Yeah, you on. I just got one more.
Sorry, go on.
I just got one more thing to say. I'm not that guy to be out here speaking ill of the dead or spilling tea. But I've heard that Afeni was a little one of those like cult hoppers. She was like one of those type of people that went from like religious movement to like, you know, cults and shit like that. She was, if Afeni were alive today, she'd be like, oh, I can tell you a Virgo. You know what I mean? Afeni was on that type of time. So
well, maybe she was trying to find the right like way, you know?
And I'm not mad at that. But I think that's one of the interesting things about her personality is that maybe she just liked being in them like hippie type circles. You know what I'm saying? Them hippie witchy type circles.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
There's nothing. But rest in peace, Afeni. I still love her. But yeah, Nelson, anything?
Not much. I like to hear you guys' opinions. I thought it was great. I like the story of Malcolm X and Michael X, how they became friends. They were mistaken for brothers. The guy called him Michael X, and he took it. That's a really cool, fun anecdote.
That's such a funny British thing to do. Malcolm X, Michael X. It's like doppelgangers.
And he looks the part too. He looks the part, right?
He does.
He looks like Frederick Douglass.
He does look like an evil. He looks like an evil Frederick Douglass too.
Oh shit!
He has the ancestors in him.
He does. He has
Does he look that evil?
I don't think he looks that evil. He looks like if Frederick Douglass and Bob Ross had a child.
Wow, Bob Ross.
He looks like he looks like really like a really conscious dude. He like
yes.
Damn, they are. Look at them.
He doesn't look like him. Damn.
My guy, Jesus Christ. Oh God.
And, I mean, he looks the part. And do you know Shahid Bosun?
That name sounds super. Yeah. Malcolm X, the white Malcolm X.
The white Malcolm X. I would really like to see a discussion with you, these two guys. They're really something to see.
Now,
maybe get in Dr. Umar involved.
Yes, all three of them at a round table. And all they.
Just one more thing.
What's up?
And I liked that Mueller guy from that guy who was working, a member of RAF of the.
Oh, so they are going to talk about the RAF.
Yeah. Mueller is a member of
okay.
Of their a founding member, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the RAF.
So RAF I really liked his observation.
What's up?
That I really liked his intuition, his observation. I think he was correct. That Nazi rationality,
barbarism,
bureaucracy.
Oh, bureaucracy.
Barbarism, yeah, also, but bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It survived and led capitalism and multinationals, and I thought that was really cool. They intuited that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more to add on to that, man. There's nothing more to add.
It's just, I guess, sad that we don't know a world outside of capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, we just have to have radical imagination and not become pessimistic or nihilistic. That's the thing. We just can't become. Woo. But anyway, let's see what happens next with brother Michael X. Michael, both with the X. That's funny, man. The British are out of control. Oh my God. All right, sorry. Let's just start here. Next 10 minutes.
Like, we have no statesman today. I'm probably the only one in the country. Unfortunately, we find that the people of pale pigmentation are people who are so barbaric. Like, for instance, right now, this country, which is run by those type of people, have got more weapons of destruction to destroy the entire world. And they're so savage, they're building even more. You see, the British are such a strange people.
Many of Michael X's supporters were the young white radicals who had moved into Notting Hill, into the very houses that he and the gangster Peter Rackman had run 10 years before. Because Michael X was an outsider, the white radicals believed that he could see the system for what it really was. Like all revolutionaries before them, they had tried to appeal to the white working class and get them to rise up against the system. But no one seemed to be interested.
And what we've been talking about here today is the problem of racism and the problem of the attack by the government and by the employers on working people's conditions.
The radicals decided that this was because the ordinary people had been brainwashed by the media and by consumerism and turned into what their theory called one-dimensional creatures, which meant that they were the wrong kind of person to start a revolution with.
Their whole mind is, like a cabbage. They're suppressed. They can't do exactly what they want. They haven't got any freedom. They haven't got any freedom to do exactly what they want under the system. I mean, we certainly... Well, being able to express yourself in whichever way you feel is right.
I think it's not only the system that's wrong, I think it's the people that's wrong.
Working every night for them?
Just for sleeping nights.
Fine, so nothing goes wrong with it. Anything particularly likes to make? A little bit of it.
She getting it. Looks like it hurts me.
When I was waiting in the bar, where were you? When I was buying you a drink, where were you? When I was trying to hold it back, where were you? I want to talk to you all night, do you like me? I want to find out how you like it, do you like me? Have you ever been my wife? Do you like me? No.
But one evening, after making a speech in Reading, Michael X was arrested, and he was sent to prison for 10 months for inciting racial hatred. The MP, Enoch Powell, had also made a speech at the same time, violently attacking immigrants.
Rivers of
He
blood.
wasn't charged, and he carried on being an MP. Which Michael X said rather proved his point about the racism underlying the country.
Certainly no one's going to tell you not to think what you honestly believe, but I think maybe you should re-examine a little bit the things that you believe, huh? Think about it.
In the Cold War, the very idea of the individual and how the individual's self worked had become political, because it was what defined the United States against the collective ideology of Russia.
I think maybe you should re-examine the things that you believe, huh?
What concerned many psychologists, though, was that the Second World War had revealed how frightening and deceptive human beings could be, particularly in Nazi Germany, where ordinary people who had apparently been good citizens had indulged in the most terrible horrors. And psychologists started to examine what really went on inside people's minds, trying to find the right place in the conscious explanations that humans gave, because those explanations could be deceptive. They wanted to find a way of getting directly at what was going on inside the brain. One of the key figures was a psychologist called Dr. Eckhard Hess. He had begun his career recording and analysing animal behaviour on film. Now he did the same with human beings. Dr. Hess had discovered that the pupils in the eyes of individuals reacted dramatically when they were shown different kinds of images. The changes had nothing to do with the changes in the light. They came from within the human being. And Dr. Hess believed that they gave you a way of seeing the hidden emotional responses that were going on inside the mind. Feelings that the individual might not want to tell you about, or even be aware of. You were looking directly at the brain.
Really, since the eye is very, very intimately a part of the brain, embryologically and anatomically, it is almost the same as though there were a piece of the brain sticking out, behaving, and all the world is there to be able to see it. And if that's so, what ought to be reflected or mirrored in the eye is really the behavior of the brain.
Jiang Qing was now the most powerful woman in the world. She was in charge of giant cohorts of Red Guards that she guided and told who to attack and destroy. High-up members of the Communist Party were seized and paraded in front of tens of thousands of screaming people and forced to confess to thought crimes against the revolution. If they didn't, they were beaten and killed. But in reality, Jiang Qing had lost control. The revolution had never really changed the structure of power in China. And what she and Mao Zedong had unleashed was a vast anger and resentment against the elites that was now bursting out and overwhelming the country. In Beijing, there were mass killings, with bodies being thrown down wells or into communal burial pits. In Shanghai, hundreds of those targeted by the Red Guards committed suicide. But Jiang Qing had become famous in the West. A feminist writer from America called Roxanne Whitaker came to Beijing to interview her. But as she talked to Jiang Qing, Whitaker began to realize that something else was also going on. That Jiang Qing was using her new power to avenge herself on all those who had dismissed her or patronized her in the past.
All right, so that was the next 20 minutes to the 30-minute mark. What did you think about that, Ekti?
Can we go back?
Yeah, you go ahead, click. Just
Okay.
mute it. Maybe mute it and then click wherever you want.
Okay. Sorry. Oh yeah, Michael X. Yeah, I mean, they said that after Michael X was in prison, there were riots around the world. I don't know if that was because of Michael X.
No, it wasn't because of him. No.
Okay.
They were separate. Nobody knows Michael.
Okay, but yeah, I think that whole part with the protests and what Michael X was doing in England as well, it kind of shows me yeah, we tried. A lot of people tried. A lot of people wanted others to be informed and not, conform. And a lot of the times it was the youth, just like how in China the youth was used to control the population and spread propaganda as well in a different way. But in the West, I guess, or I don't know, in the countries who are run by capitalism, the youth was saying let's stop this because we don't have to keep on being miserable in the system. But I don't know what doesn't work, because also back then there wasn't social media, so it was all active gatherings, all active protests in field. But now I don't know. We have social media, we're stronger and bigger, but there's less action. And I guess back then there's more action but less people. I don't know. I don't know what it is that we can't get the equation right.
I mean, I think it all comes down to the idea that going out in the middle of the streets and saying you're being exploited, the rich are getting richer, you're getting poorer, that's not going to work, because most people are, honestly, I don't think most people are woke enough, or they don't care. Most people.
What are we supposed to do then?
It only takes a handful of people. If you get 100 people who are focused and dedicated to something, you can change the world. You can change the system.
I don't think that's true.
That's the same. That's how it worked in your country. In your country, Ataturk and a bunch of his guys basically got together and said, "This is the new country. This is what we're going to make." And all the reforms came top down.
Yeah.
Same thing happened in my country. George Washington and his boys said, "This is our country. This is what we're going to do." Top down.
Okay, how did that work out for us?
It worked out horrible for the majority of people, but it did work out good enough for enough people, like any other nation state or revolution.
Well, it worked out for enough people is not good enough, I think. And yeah, Ataturk and his revolution, enabled certain freedoms for certain people, and it protected the borders, but it didn't solve the human problem of us not being free of a system. And you're saying people are not woke enough, but if you don't think about those not woke people who are still working in factories, who are
Mhm.
still farming, who are still doing everything in the world, along with the people who are woke. We can't just leave them out and be like, they're not woke enough. We'll never wake them. I don't think that should be the idea. Like, I know it's frustrating to talk to a bigot, right? And try to explain to that person, like, why racism is bad, why sexism is bad. But you can't just, like, wipe out a whole section of people just because they're not woke enough.
Nelson?
Let me just see what happened here, because I forgot already.
You can click around if
There
you
was
want
this.
to.
So there was this doctor, psychologist named. This psychologist named Harold Hess. So he basically.
It's right here.
I think what he's saying is that he found evidence of the unconscious. I think that's what it's saying. But that's cool. I don't remember what else the documentary said. And then there was Mike X. I thought it was cool how the documentary pointed out the hypocrisy regarding the laws of racial hatred, because that MP with a much bigger microphone said, also bad stuff about a race of people, which probably led to a lot more suffering, but nothing happened to him. So that's cool. It's so cool how Jiang Xing lost control of the revolution, basically. So her dumbass is there. So yeah, I guess that's it for me.
Okay.
Miss Psychologist, what do you think about Hess's research?
Yeah, I mean, it's one time a psychologist did something good in the history. Sorry, it's not one time, but I was so scared when they introduced him, like, oh, he, like, experimented on people in an unethical way. But anyways, I thought it was an interesting, like, experiment, and that's why we need psychology for the society. To understand, and that's why, like, I think also social psychology is very important as well. But yeah, like, that I was thinking that could even be used today, like, to figure out what people actually feel towards different things. But then again, going back to my previous argument, that's not going to help us to label people woke and not woke, and then just take action for your in-group. Yeah.
I want to celebrate yet, because I don't think Adam Curtis, the documentarian, I don't think he likes psychologists, and every science that he shows up here, like in this documentary, is later shown to be like a piece for a system of control. So I want to celebrate quite yet.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Maybe you're right.
I knew it was gonna come.
Yeah, I think, when you start talking about, the way people react to things is a deeper view into their psychology, it sounds very behaviorist, and I don't think behaviorism is taken as seriously now in modern psychology. In fact, I think the majority of psychology now is based on cognitive study rather than behavioral study.
He wasn't doing that.
He wasn't doing that by analyzing how people's pupils dilate to seeing a naked man?
No, that's not behaviorism. He was like basically showing that there's deeper parts of the brain, of the
that's cognitive.
Conscious, unconscious brain.
That's cognitive.
He wasn't.
By looking at actual bodily reactions is cognitive research.
But bodily reactions are caused by how you mentalize that image.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's cognitive.
Okay. I trust you, but y'all are the scientists.
Behavioral is like Nelson said, it's like conscious behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's more cognitive, yeah.
Mm.
Even psychoanalytical.
Okay. All right. Well, any other comments about this part before we go?
No. I mean, it's talking about China again. It went back to China. and sort of all the horrible things that happened there. And yeah, I mean that is pretty bad.
I mean,
like
Mike
what
was like 10
everything
years in
happened.
jail. That's crazy.
What's crazy?
Like how long he was in jail?
I think he was only in there 10 months.
Oh, 10 months? Oh, I thought it was like 10 years. My bad. Oh, shit.
Yeah. By the way, fuck Enoch Powell. Enoch Powell gave a famous speech in Britain called Rivers of Blood, where essentially he says, if we keep on letting black people and brown people into the UK, one day the brown man will have the whip hand over the white man. And I cannot wait until that day. But he said it as a sort of type of threat. He said, if we kept on letting this happen, in the UK there will be rivers of blood of the white man because the brown man will have the whip hand over him. And so that's very racist. That's extremely racist, but he got to keep his job while Malcolm X's brother is in jail doing burpees.
That's very like projection also.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Yes. Anyway, next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
Killings, with bodies being thrown down wells or into communal burial pits. In Shanghai, hundreds of those targeted by the Red Guards committed suicide. But Jiang Qing had become famous in the West. A feminist writer from America came to Beijing to interview her. But as she talked to Jiang Qing, Whitaker began to realise that something else was also going on.
He said, that bitch ain't right.
Jiang Qing was using her new power to avenge herself on all those who had dismissed her or patronised her in the past. Jiang Qing also had a demon inside her.
One of the main themes of her life was avenging herself against men who wronged her, politically mainly, when she was in her 20s. And she did not strike back against them until the time of the Cultural Revolution, some 20 years later. They still had refused to give her access to the masses and to allow her to work. And she finally destroyed them. Right. They were removed from their posts. They were humiliated before the people. Placards were put up over their chests. They were dragged before the masses. They were humiliated. They were destroyed.
Jiang Qing also turned on everyone who in Shanghai in the 1930s had held her film career back. Studio heads, directors and journalists were dismissed and beaten up. The worst was saved for the film star Li Lili. They had starred together in Bloodshed on Wolf Mountain. Jiang Qing had always believed that Li Lili had deliberately upstaged her. Now, Li Lili and her husband were seized by Red Guards. Jiang Qing ordered them to be tortured. Li Lili survived, but her husband couldn't bear it, and he committed suicide.
We have warned every person in the world not to visit Palestine because Palestine is not a tourist attraction. It's a battlefield and it is our land. Anybody who gets killed or injured in Palestine would be carrying his own responsibility.
Horst Mahler and a group of other German revolutionaries secretly went to a Palestinian training camp in Jordan. They had decided to train in urban guerrilla warfare. But things didn't go well from the very start. One of the leaders of the group, Andreas Baader, insisted on having mixed sleeping quarters. Then the female members of the group started to sunbathe on the roof. The commander of the camp told them to stop. Baader argued with him. The anti-imperialist struggle and sexual emancipation, he said, must go hand in hand. The commander refused. Baader put it more bluntly. Fucking and shooting, he said, are the same thing. Then Horst Mahler found that the Fedayeen fighters in the camp had brought in pictures of Hitler. They pointed at them and said, "Good man," because he had killed the Jews. That was very hard for us, Mahler later said, because we had a feeling of guilt about the Jews. We were very upset. In the end, the Germans went on strike because they weren't being given enough bullets each day to shoot with. So the commander stormed their house and threw them out. They came back to West Germany, helped by the East German Stasi, who saw it as a way of destabilising the West. And the revolutionaries set out to use their training to force the West German state to reveal its true fascist face. Afeni Shakur was now a full-time member of the Black Panther chapter in New York. She was certain that the only solution in America was violent uprising. And she spent her time writing poems calling for a revolution. The problem was that she and many of the others in her cell didn't know what to do to make this happen. They watched enviously as other Black Panthers on the West Coast fought running battles with the police and the military.
All we have to say is all power to the people, and you can jail a revolutionary, but you sure can't jail a revolution.
baby, you're gonna have some dealing to do, because niggas ain't gonna stop until they either get freedom or destroy everything that they run across.
The question of who to attack in New York got more and more complicated. Some of the Panthers argued that they should target the ruthless landlords who made them live in rotting apartments, and the bankers who refused to lend blacks money, so they could never escape from the slums. These, they said, were the agents of imperialist control. But in New York, the majority of landlords and bankers were Jewish.
And we are being exploited by people who do not live in our colonies, you see, or in our communities, who come into our communities and exploit us every day, you see, and they take the money back to their community. So this is like colonial imperialism in our content, you see. And the people who exploit us in our communities, particularly in New York City, are Zionist Jews.
Afeni Shakur's group came up with a plan. They were going to plant bombs in big department stores like Macy's. And they would also bomb the Bronx Botanical Gardens and attack local police stations.
Alright, this is not true.
But as they developed the plan, Afeni Shakur began to worry. She didn't want to kill civilians. And she felt they were being bullied into it by one of their group. He was one of the founder members of the cell, whose revolutionary name was Yedwar Sudan. And Afeni Shakur started to be suspicious. She wondered if he might really be an undercover policeman. Shakur told another member of the group about her suspicions, who then went and confronted Yedwar Sudan. Sudan immediately pulled out a gun, fired 2 bullets into the table in front of him, and denied it. He said that Afeni Shakur was just being a typical emotional woman. And the group believed him, not her. When Michael X came out of jail, he found that the world had completely changed, but not in the way he had hoped. The middle-class radicals, who only a year before had been his most fervent supporters, suddenly didn't want to know him anymore. In Notting Hill, no one talked of violent revolution or of bringing down the corrupt power structure. Instead, a new group had turned up. They looked like young radicals, but they had a rather different agenda.
And there's no more war, 'cause there's no more world.
Hundreds of student volunteers from all over the country had come to do a massive survey of everyone who lived in Notting Hill. It was the beginning of what was called community action. They were going to use the data to create neighbourhood centres, which they said would be a different way of empowering the local people.
Parts of Notting Hill are closed off from the general mainstream of society, treated differently from society. Sometimes treated as a social dustbin, sometimes treated as a ghetto.
Hello. Lighting, we've got lighting, we pay for it ourselves. And you pay for it yourself? Yes, and the heating. Cleaning, well this doesn't really apply to you, this applies to us. In other sorts of rented accommodation. We do that ourselves. You do that yourself? Yes. Also, room service doesn't really apply either, I imagine.
But soon, many of the local black residents who were involved with the project resigned, because power seemed to remain firmly with the white professionals.
Can we go in an orderly fashion and no damage to the property at all, please?
Well, what made me resign is because I don't think that enough local people were being involved. And by local people, I mean West Indians. Students can't do much. They're relegated to a role of just getting information.
Isn't that worthwhile?
Well, I suppose it's worthwhile, but it depends on how the information will be used afterwards.
The aim of Black Power had been that people would organise themselves so they could stand up against those who ruled them.
All right, that's the 30-minute to the 40-minute mark. Any comments on any of those parts?
Okay, so I was taking notes.
Oh shit! Here we go.
Because otherwise, I forget my thoughts.
Okay.
There's so many parts here.
I told you this documentary is all over the place.
Yeah.
Before you go to the notes, I have to ask you, because I had a big debate with Nelson yesterday. What do you think the point of this documentary is? What do you think? Is there any objective point the documentarian is making, or is it really all up to us to just interpret it as we wish?
The point of the documentary is to make you woke.
Okay.
And how you become that woke is up to you. If you're a black capitalist, if Jay-Z is watching this,
oh God, no,
he's gonna get something else.
Oh Jesus Christ!
If I don't know, some Indian revolutionaries watching this, they're gonna get something else. Or if a South African who is worker is watching this, then he's gonna get something else, or she.
Okay.
So yeah, it's woke in your own terms, I think.
Okay, all right.
That's the main goal, but then how you define woke and wokeness, that's up to you.
Okay. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Okay, so
Because y'all came for acting. Y'all didn't come for me. I'm shutting up. I'm not saying shit.
I also want to hear y'all thoughts. But yeah, so starting with Jiang Qing, where that writer or interviewer from the West came and she interviewed her. I was thinking like, okay, yes, she's kind of like doing this. It's not necessarily like white feminism because she's defending like a Chinese woman, right? I guess. But it was like weird to me how she was causing all this havoc, but the West was loving her, which is kind of weird, but I guess expected of the, West, who's a bit of a hypocrite. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on why that was happening?
I think with Mao's wife, politics partially is like, I'm going to get in power to help the people at best, but also to screw over my enemies at worst. Every politician does that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's levels to it. There's like throwing your enemies in jail or killing them or making sure they don't get jobs anymore. Yeah. Like there's levels to it. And it's just funny when a woman does what a man usually does, which is like kill off their enemies.
Yeah.
Now it's, she was out of control. She's bloodthirsty. She's the ice queen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it's a double standard.
I mean, yeah, but she was a psycho. Like, putting the woman... No, but also the men who do it are psychos too. Yeah. I'm not saying they aren't.
Right.
But, the woman who outstaged you in a movie years ago and you put him in jail and put them through torture and stuff like that. That is insane levels of revenge, I would say. But yeah, there was like that little bit of sprinkle of feminism there. And then it went on to talk about like Palestine and that like whole part where Germans went to the Palestinian training camp and they wanted the beds to be mixed, like mixed genders. And yeah, he said something about like fighting and fucking are the same. Something like that.
That's the name of this episode.
Yeah.
Shooting and fucking are the same.
And I don't know what to think about that because I think fucking is something great, right? It's human nature and it's like something natural for humans. Is fighting that? I am not sure. Are they the same? I am not sure. I think in some ways they are.
I think what he is implying, the German guy, when he's talking to the Palestinian guy, they're both on the left. And they both agree Zionist Israel is a problem. And probably the nation state as a whole, as a concept, is a problem. Mm-hmm. It's just, we both agree shooting and killing, the enemy is okay. But you think that me having sex with this German girl who I'm not married to is a problem too. But liberation is not only for just your nation state, it's also for liberation for us as people. And women, Mr. Arab Man, are people too. So that's what he's implying, that shooting and fucking are the same. That we're shooting for liberation and we're having sex because it's part of liberation too.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes better sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I am confused. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But yeah, also that like the whole thing with like showing Hitler and that's saying funny. He was a great man because that was insane.
My friend, you from Germany, Hitler, good man. Yeah, I can just imagine the Arab accent.
Yeah, that is an insane. Like that shouldn't also be, allowed, or that shouldn't also be the thing. We're against Zionism, not Jewish people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was crazy, and it also reminded me of my friend who told me about like her Nazi era. It was an Arab, but yeah.
I think about that, the idea like, okay, we want liberation for all people, right? But like, there are groups of people that have more conservative cultures, right? So it's like, like how we always talk about how in Turkey, your left is sort of similar to my right a lot of the times in some ways, but there's overlapping parts that are weird. And I'm sure there's a lot on the Turkish left I could agree with, but also disagree with as well. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the question becomes like, at what points can leftists like, diverge and say, listen, we all agree in liberation and no more capitalism. But in my country, women cover up. In my country, gay shit, no go, no gay shit. You know what I mean? Like, a little bit of racism is okay. Like, we don't think it's a problem to call you X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
where do we diverge? When is it okay?
I mean, that's the problem. Like, not problem, but you know, politics and how we think and what we decide is heavily influenced by our culture and our traditions and our history. So I think in every country, the left is shaped by that. But how willing are you to say that, yeah, those were our traditions, but they were stupid and they were discriminatory and they were fucked up. So, yeah, we can still have some culture.
Yeah, but that's our culture. Culture is subjective. You might not like that we cover up women, but you don't like that we just like the guy with the mustache who was Hitler. In our culture, Hitler's okay. That's art. You might think it's so offensive to say Hail Hitler. We think it's okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to look past your culture. That's what I'm saying. That you have to have the, like, revolutionary mind to say, okay, like, yeah, I understand in my culture that's okay, but that's still problematic. And you have to look at it from, a subjective...
Objective point of view.
Objective point of view, sorry.
I mean, I don't know. Nelson, any comments on anything? On any of this stuff?
I have a bunch of questions, but I thought it was kind of funny that, like, what you guys were talking about, that he ran away from Germany because he saw that structurally there were still Nazis. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to the Fatah PLO camp.
and they say, my friend, Hitler, good man.
and he's there, like, killing Jews. And then comes this guy saying, hey, Hitler, good guy. And he's like, oh. So I was like, it's dark, but it's also kind of funny how life plays those tricks to you. I also really liked my best friend, Michael Freitas.
Yeah.
Also, like I really like how just like the woman Shang Qing. I really like how he was really charismatic, and he backed Janus Griffiths, right? But just like, you know, like those operas that Zhang Xing was doing, you know, he also was about spectacle, you know. I think the beard, the way of walking, you know, so he was doing some certain aesthetic, you know. But I'm not going to spoil anything. Also really liked how they were talking about the Notting Hill. Mm-hmm. How the children of the colonialists of the empire became this really lame, like, managers and, like, really nice people who were really about revolution.
Yeah.
The white radicals were doing, like, surveys, data gathering or something, which you could say is another form of control and so forth. Also, like, my favorite part was the Aish, the Shakur lady. Also, like, she had a good third eye. She had a good nose, because the undercover cops were there trying to cite violence. They're trying to set him up. It was like, oh my God, guys! They were trying. This guy might be like a rat or an undercover guy, and they responded by misogyny. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, definitely there was like a pattern, like, you know, there was some sort of, I don't know, this revenge of Zhang Qing being accepted a little bit, but also, you know, painting her to be like the villain, or like the, you know, the sexism that happens when all the male presidents do that, but when she does it, it's a problem. And then there was like a different perspective in Palestine, and I think there was also sexism within the Black Panther Party right then and there when they were talking about it, that they believed the guy but not Afeni when she spotted the spy, basically. But yeah, and I was also thinking, like, you know, they were talking about their plans and what they should do. Maybe they should go and kill the landlords. Maybe they should go and kill the bank owners and or bankers, that they don't give them loans. But yeah, I mean, I understand like the messaging of it, but at the end of the day, all the big people, the big capitalists, right? They are using all of these people who work under them as shields. Like, if you're gonna commit violence, you have to Luigi Mangione that. Like, you can't be like killing the hotel manager when the hotels are owned by this one guy who owns half of New York. He's not gonna feel bad about it. He's not gonna feel sad about it. He's not gonna lose anything. Maybe he'll lose a couple of $1,000s, but that's not gonna hurt the big capitalists. That's only gonna hurt like one family, one person who was being used as a shield, as a tool by the big capitalists. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna just briefly love on Afeni real quick. First thing I gotta say, Afeni was gangsta as hell. Like, the fact that a nigga like stood up, put 2 on the table, and she just looked him in the eye and say, "You a bitch," and probably a snitch too. That's some gangsta shit. Like, that's where Pac got his gangsta shit from. Second thing I gotta say is that when the brother who was a Black Panther here was talking about how Black people in America are colonized too because we are ghettoized in communities where our resources are taken out and all we have to do is fight for scraps. It's a very revolutionary concept that I think more people across the world should apply when they think about their own situation. In a lot of ways, we are internal colonies inside of these countries. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I got to say. And a third thing I got to say is that when they start talking about the bombings that the Black Panthers were planning, this is all not true because, they went to court, fought this case, and all of them were found innocent. So repeating this claim is like continuing to say...
Don't spoil. You're spoiling.
This is like the one thing that I do know about. Everything else in this documentary I don't know, but this is the one thing I do know. The case of the Panther 20 or 25, whatever, was them, all of them being found not guilty because Afeni defended themselves in court and beat the charge. You know what I mean?
You're spoiling the story. It's gonna happen here. You're spoiling the story.
I mean, come on, man. This is the one thing that I do know about, man. Come on, Pac is my favorite rapper. I love Afeni, and I talked about the Afeni documentary. What's up?
What did you think of Michael? Of Mike? In this section.
When I don't know what they're going to talk about in Notting Hill, where if he's going to be against the young white sociologists who are like trying to build community centers or whatever. I think, I don't know, Mike gives opportunist. He comes across, he's giving very opportunist, very like grifter. He comes across like a grifter for me. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
To me, I don't know what's going to happen to him. I don't know.
Wait, what makes you say that? What makes you say that?
Because before, he was working with the guy Rackman as like a slumlord enforcer. So if people weren't paying their rent in the slums, then he would shake them down. Then when Rackman died, he was like not accepting the rent from certain tenants to try to force them out and shit like that. Like, he was a dick.
I mean, he's trying to survive.
Yeah, but he was... Yesterday, you were calling him a coon. Yesterday... those are your words.
I mean, that was coonish behavior, but that was... Like, the kicking out people stuff, that was coonish behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean... And now you're Michael X the Radical.
That was in the past.
Oh, now it's in the past. I mean, Malcolm X once was a pimp, so I get that. But... I don't see any serious, like the way they're presenting him in the documentary, they don't seem like he did serious study. It's more like, you know what, the times are changing. Let me grow out my hair, grow an afro, and now it's Black Power. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's what I'm getting. I don't know. I don't know where it's going.
Okay.
We'll see. I didn't feel like he was a grifter. I felt like maybe he was, and not in a bad way, but like an imposter. Like, not imposter is a bad word to use, but he was just trying to copy what Malcolm X did.
Yeah.
And did it in his own neighborhood or own, like, place.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, copy those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a little bit like he doesn't have his own original ideas.
Yeah.
But he's just taking those and trying to make a name for himself.
But
as
he
well.
loves black people. You can tell that. He loves black people.
I'm not getting that. I don't know yet. I'm interested to see.
Okay.
I mean, he's fighting for socialism, right?
Yeah.
Not specifically for black liberation, but he does talk about black liberation.
Right. One more thing I gotta say in relation to the Black Panthers, I just gotta get this out here. One of the biggest misconceptions about the Black Panthers is that either they had no ideology or their ideology was explicitly like communist. The Black Panthers were not communist. I repeat, the Black Panthers were not communist or Marxist. Huey P. Newton created his own ideology, which was called revolutionary intercommunalism, because his idea is that we need to focus on communities in a sort of anarchic sense. We don't need a state and a whole massive top-down Soviet-type government. We need communities to have control of their own shit, which is why this brother here is talking about we need to break out of this colonial system where people come to our communities, take our resources, and take it to their communities. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I just gotta... Because I got a lot of thoughts going to my head too, like I'm sure everybody here does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I just want to hear you guys' thoughts.
Yeah. If anybody else got any other comments, put it out now before we go to the next 10.
Just something, and I hope I don't get canceled in
Go
Turkey
ahead.
for this.
Here we go.
That what you said just now reminded me of a post theory. I forgot the name of it, but the one he wrote like after he was imprisoned. So he might have been influenced by Black Panther's ideology.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because he was proposing the same thing, like community level, and then growing bigger from there. You know.
Yeah. Nelson, any other comments before we jump ahead?
I mean, I don't want to be rude though.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, say it.
I mean, was Afeni cute? I don't know.
Afeni was a baddie. Afeni was top 10, dime, top of the line. Cute face, thin waist with a small behind. Come on now. That's Afeni. That's a dime. What are you talking about? It was Afeni cute. Right. No, she wasn't. Afeni wasn't cute.
I don't know.
Damn, acting. What do you think?
Her energy is enough. Her thoughts are enough.
Oh.
What?
Compliment.
No, man. I don't like short-haired girls. No, not really. If they do, they gotta look like the young Halle Berry. I mean, or Afeni.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anyway, shall we continue? Yeah. Boy, British people are not the best looking, aren't they?
No.
Not at all. This is something about them. I'm sorry. Let's go. All right.
Michael X realised that what was happening now in Notting Hill was the opposite. People were being treated as subjects to be counted and measured and managed. He became increasingly cynical about the Liberals' real intentions.
Places always have fantastic basement.
Oh, this is a tremendous place if you've got the money.
You want to have a party?
A few years ago, you were reported to have said that whites who claimed to help you are out to kill you. Do you still believe that?
Yes, I'm thinking, when I said that, I was referring to people who are described as white liberals. They are some of the most vicious people I find in this country, for the simple reason, anywhere, not just in this country, because they're the kind of people who come to black neighborhoods ostensibly to help black people.
Michael X had come to believe that the talk of revolution had just been empty rhetoric that disguised something else. The new groups might look like radicals,
that was the most
dance to black
violent
music,
thing we've seen.
But really, they were the children of the colonialists who had run the empire, and they had no intention of giving up their power. That old system of power was simply mutating, morphing into a new form that camouflaged itself in radicalism, but still would manage and control. Michael X was an ambitious man who had badly wanted political power.
I don't see anything to be terrified about powerful black people. I'm a pretty powerful black man. I'm the most powerful black man in Europe.
But now he saw that he was never going to get it. So he decided that he too would revert to the old forms of power that he knew well: extortion and violence. He set up a new organisation called the Black House. It deliberately excluded whites. He still talked of violent revolution, but really it was a front for taking over drug dealing in parts of London. He also persuaded John Lennon and Yoko Ono, who had shaved off their hair, to donate it and a large amount of money to the Black House. Michael X took the money and pocketed it for himself.
Michael was putting every single cent he could get in his own pocket. He didn't care about black people.
See?
What did they think of him in the end when it failed?
Well, they thought he was just a cheap con man. They lost faith in Michael in the end. But he was just playing his games, you know.
Why do you think he did that?
Because Michael doesn't believe in black power. Michael is just on a power trick for
Bruh, I'm never
benefit.
wrong.
Michael doesn't like black people because Michael is half white.
Damn. Okay.
In a short time, I'm going to ask you to put your face up against that face piece and look in this box while I ask you to solve some multiplication problems in your head. The problems will be relatively simple. They'll be given to you verbally, and I will ask you to give me the answer verbally back. Give me only the answer. Once you have given me the answer, dismiss the problem from your mind, and we'll go on to the next one.
Many psychologists have begun to take Dr. Hess's experiments with the pupils of the eye further. They were fascinated by the idea that there might be other forces inside the mind that people themselves weren't aware of. One of them was a young psychologist studying in America called Daniel Kahneman. His fascination with the complexity of the mind had come from a moment of terror when he was a child, living in Nazi-occupied France during the Second World War. One day he had been stopped by an SS officer. Kahneman was a Jew, and the SS was in charge of sending people to the death camps. He was convinced that he was about to be sent away to be killed. But the SS man picked him up, kissed him, and showed him pictures of his own son in Germany. Kahneman decided that the human mind was very strange and full of contradictory impulses.
17 times 19.
Now, he, along with other psychologists inspired by Dr. Hess, studied the pupils in people's eyes as they gave them all kinds of problems to solve, while distracting them with music and noise.
223.
They were trying to probe further into the human brain to see how it responded to the world outside in ways that the individual wasn't aware of. But as Kahneman and the others watched the individuals in their laboratories, isolated from the society outside, they were led down a very strange path. That in the age when the individual self was going to become the central focus, from politics through to consumerism, the scientists were going to come to the conclusion that maybe the conscious self wasn't fully in control of what humans did. 35 years later, Kahneman was going to be given the Nobel Prize for a theory that began with his work in the 1960s. He would come to believe that what we think of as the self is really just a small part of something else hidden inside our brains. A much larger part of the brain that actually experiences the world outside. But that experience makes no sense. It is just an ongoing chaotic rush of biochemical data that flashes up and fades away. And what humans think of as their self is actually an accessory that tries to make sense of this chaotic mass of incoming data. But to do that, it has to simplify and turn that data into stories that are sometimes so simplified that they bear little relationship to the reality outside.
Sounds like MAGA
It gives
brain.
people the feeling that they are in control, but that is just a comforting illusion. Kahneman's theory was going to have a far-reaching influence beyond psychology, because the implication of what he was saying was that you could never change people's behavior by appealing to them rationally. And in a strange way, Kahneman was saying the same thing as the left-wing revolutionaries. Human beings did live in a simplified dream world, but what he was saying was that there was nothing you could do about that. And in an age of individualism, when you could no longer order people about, the only solution was to keep them in that dream world, and to make sure the dream world was safe and happy. The idea of appealing to them rationally and changing the world was pointless.
That's hard.
By now, China was in a state of almost civil war. Different groups of armed Red Guards were fighting running battles with each other in all the major cities. But Jiang Qing still believed that real power was almost within her grasp. She had destroyed the one man who was seen as Mao's successor, Liu Shaoqi. Red Guards took Liu from his house when he was beaten up and imprisoned. Everyone, including children, were told that he too was a demon.
Okay, y'all hitting that bitch.
Then suddenly, it now turned on Jiang Qing. At a public meeting of those in charge of the Cultural Revolution, he told her, "You are someone who has grandiose aims, but puny abilities. Great ambition, but little talent." Jiang Qing realized that she was being dropped. In her operas, Jiang Qing had gone back into...
Anyway. All right, so we just watched the 40-minute to the 50-minute mark. Any comments on any of those parts here?
Yeah, so before Michael X turned out to be a con man.
I knew it. I knew it was coming. Y'all were mad at me like literally 2 minutes in after that. He became a con man. Go ahead.
Anyway, Like the whole deal
Irony.
in Nottingham, right, where white social workers come there and they discriminate against black people. They don't give them enough opportunities as much as the poor white people. And yeah, that's a problem with the left. I would say that, like, especially like knowing my own country, we have a lot of problems with that. Like, as the left, we understand like capitalism is bad, this and that is bad, but a lot of the leftists in Turkey still have very racist ideas overall and like discriminatory ideas. Not in the sense like they, you know, hate or they would incite violence against people who are different from them, but just like ingrained in their brain.
I just think that there's a lot of nationalism and patriotism on your left that prevents them from crossing certain lines. You know what I mean?
That's part of it. That's part of
Yeah.
it. But it's also like, once again, I'm repeating myself, but it also, I think, stems from like the lack of education about this topic, because it just feels like this topic is non-existent in Turkey. Like, there's no discrimination in Turkey because we lived all together for thousands of years, and that's the rhetoric the people use.
Right.
So that's just annoying for me. And then I said, Michael X is giving Dr. Umar vibes.
I literally, y'all were mad at me. You were like, I don't see him as a grifter. And I'm like, I knew it. Look at his eyes.
I wasn't mad. I mean, I've already seen it, so I knew it was going to happen.
Did y'all see about like the Ghanaian man who said Noah's Ark is coming and he took money from a bunch of people?
Yeah.
And he bought himself like a car.
Yeah, you showed me.
I said Michael X is the ancestor of that man.
Like every scamming preacher, you know, has Michael X in their DNA.
Yes.
But this has been going on for a while.
Was he always a scammer? Was he always a scammer, or did he just like he gave up and was like, fuck it?
I mean, listen, a lot of revolutionaries were gangsters. Joseph Stalin was a gangster. Like, literally, he used to, like, rob banks and shit. I think he did time for robbing banks. Saddam Hussein was, like, a literal gangster shooter. Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, they were gangsters. But there's, like, a change when they become politically aware. I don't think there was ever a time Michael X ever cracked open a real political book or had an education on ideology or politics. It just always felt media focused. I don't know. Now, what do you think, Nelson? I don't know. Maybe you've done more research on the man.
I skimmed through his Wikipedia, but I mean that's who knows what's going inside people's heads, you know. I hope that he wasn't like always like doing this script scheme, but based on what the woman told me, man, what she told in the interview. He didn't really like black people. I was like, damn.
Because he's half white. When they start saying, "Oh, you half white," you know you lost. There's no going back.
Don't do that.
I know, but I'm just saying, because like there's been a lot of like half black, half white like revolutionaries, and nobody ever dropped that card on them. Like, you really got to go far. Michael doesn't.
I mean, yeah. And like he was using money that was supposed to go for the community, like for children. He was using he was finessing for himself. That's crazy.
That's crazy. And yeah, go ahead.
No, any other comments? What did y'all think about the psychologist and his theories on basically we consume shit and make stories out of it in our brain? That to me sounds like MAGA brain. I feel like this is my concept of that theory. In general, it's true. Yes. Our minds are making sense of all the shit around us, and we create, you know, identity for the things around us to make it understandable. But there's levels to it. There's people that deal with the abstraction and chaos of this world and say, my team good, your team bad, and they're like caveman. And then there's people that are able to have more nuance with it and internal dialogue. I do think there's levels to this shit, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I also personally don't agree with him. I know he did a study, but yeah, you have to repeat one study 1,000 times to make it like, and even then it won't be like a law, you know, when it comes to psychology or social sciences. But I do think people can be changed or like can be therapized in that sense where like.
But he's saying that you can't change people through solely rational means. Like you can't just explain to a person like, don't eat meat because it will give you cancer. You have to give a grander, more impassioned, maybe romantic narrative why you shouldn't eat meat.
Yeah, but the way they explained it here is like, we can't just ever change it because, we're not going to just be able to do something bigger than just radical explanations. And, I don't think that's true. And most of the time, like, our media right now does not give us an objective, radical explanation. Like, look at how politicians are talking and look at how, like, right side media is talking. Those are not, like, radical explanations.
You have to say thank you to Avery.
Thank you, Avery.
It looks like she's giving you the middle finger. This is Korean heart.
Yeah, no, I'm making a heart.
Okay.
Why would you say I'm making it?
Because you're hella pale. The way you just threw it up, it just looked like middle fingers. I'm sorry.
I have poor melanin skills.
I'm sorry.
Poorly melanated.
That's funny. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't agree with them at the end of the day.
I think it makes sense.
I think people can be brought back.
You know what psychology means
thinking.
in ancient Greek?
What?
You don't know what it means?
Soul?
The study of the soul.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the first time I've ever asked you this. Do you believe in the soul? Or do you think the soul is real?
Not really, no.
Do you think the self is real?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the difference between the soul being real and the self being real? Because both are really immaterial.
Well, self is a concept that you make in your own brain about yourself.
I could make the same about the soul.
But no, so for me, like the way I understand soul is something that is like are given to us or is just part of us that like has our, I don't know, it doesn't have our thoughts, but it has like something like that just doesn't make sense to me. For me, I always thought like unconsciousness is always interpreted as soul. Or consciousness and unconsciousness together is interpreted as soul.
I guess there are some differences in how we think about the soul, but the major similarity is that when you meet another person, you assume that they have a personality, likes, dislikes, beliefs, and we attribute that to the self. Also the same thing, a lot of people meet another person, we assume that they have a soul, right? Because most of the people in the world are religious, and most religions speak about there being some other essence that's a part of them that dictates to them right and wrong and is in relation to some divine spirit as well. So I just think, those are major similarities that...
Yeah, but I feel like self is something that you make and soul is not something that you make.
I feel like
soul is like something that is given to you by God or...
We actually did a video about this. I don't think you remember, but it was years ago in Marmaris. We talked about the soul and the self on the beach.
I don't.
Okay.
Did I say the opposite of what I'm saying now? Because I might.
No, I don't remember. And if you did, it's okay. Nelson, what do you think? Soul, self, do either exist?
I don't know. I don't believe in the self, and I don't believe in the soul either. But I don't know. That's complicated, I guess. But regarding, first of all, it's kind of interesting that these observations about people can be trusted or so are being made by a Holocaust survivor, more or less, right? So it's like seems like trauma. It seems like it came from trauma. It seems like people are we can't really trust people. They're too irrational. If you give them a charismatic leader, they'll do anything and so forth. It seems like it doesn't seem like a neutral scientific observation, if I'm making sense. And I do agree that people do live, most people at least, live in simplified fictions, right? And they can really be moved reliably, at least by a rational argument. But I don't agree with the conclusion that therefore the answer is to keep people in a safe, happy dream, and that humans are too irrational to be trusted with real control. I don't agree with that part. That's for sure.
I mean, I don't. I forgot if that's exactly the documentarian's argument or if that's the argument that the psychologist makes.
That's the how was his name? Kahneman.
That's Kahneman's argument,
I think that's Kahneman's argument.
I see.
I think.
Go ahead.
And who did you see? God damn it. Regarding Michael again, yeah, he was low. But come on, he did make a good point about the white managers, didn't he?
About the white liberals?
Yeah, about the white liberals, the white radicals, so-called white radicals.
I mean, if there's a bunch of, like, you know, middle-class, non-revolutionary people, you know, who are coming down saying, okay, we're going to find out the poverty levels in this neighborhood, and maybe if a community center can help, then... I mean, is it the worst thing in the world? No. I feel like people go overboard in criticizing the white liberals. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, once again, we make them as on par with the white right, with the reactionaries in general. You know what I mean? When people say, yeah, the Democrats and Republicans are just equally as bad, to me, it's not even close. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't have that much smoke for the white liberals. I understand they're problematic, but I don't.
But you had smoke for Michael X, though.
I do have smoke because if he's, yeah, but if he, come on, I think coons are much worse than white liberals because we understand that white liberals in general are only going to be so imaginative and their radical thinking can only go so far, right? But if you're a black person claiming to be a revolutionary and you're acting in the opposite way, that's very bad.
I think we need to look at Michael with some empathy, right? We have to remember where he's from. Remember the first episode where he was complaining that he was when he was born in Jamaica, he was being told that, you know, the UK was his home and so forth. But when he came home, quote unquote, he faced discrimination and so forth. Like this episode is about how colonialism is haunting the colonialized and the colonialists, right? And we see like all the violence that was put on Michael probably since childhood. You know, he needs a place to be externalized. He needs to get out of him. You know, and yeah, it comes out real bad. But I mean, who's the real perpetrator here? Like if we look at his entire like life history.
Hey, watch, I'm about to flip it on you. You have all this sympathy for Michael de Freitas. Where's this sympathy for Ling Qiang or whatever, Mao's wife? Where's that sympathy for her? Think about where she started.
I mean, I don't have nothing in common with a Chinese woman. But I mean, I respect her at some level. She's the proto girl boss. I mean, what's not to like about that, I guess.
Good girl comrade. I mean, she's on another level with it.
Is she a smash?
The young version, yeah.
I would.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm smashing the old version for sure.
The old version. So you get that way the red guard won't come for you.
But I mean, Michael X. But what he really is, he's post-colonial resentment. You know, he's a showman. Yeah, he's a dangerous charismatic leader. But I mean, like what they say, he's a product of his environment. So the environment is to blame.
This is Frantz Fanon with a sociopathic tendency. That was funny for like two people in the universe.
I have no idea who's Frantz Fanon.
Frantz Fanon was a famous psychiatrist from Guadeloupe who wrote a few famous books about anti-colonialism.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess a picture would do.
So he was a good person.
He's a hero, yeah. He's an intellectual. He's it's Frantz Fanon.
Are you saying he looks like him?
No, in general, because he's from the Caribbean. He's speaking about anti-colonialism, but he's saying, I'm the most powerful black man in Europe. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's when I wrote Dr. Umar.
That's when you wrote Dr. Umar.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But What else? Anything else before we jump to the next 10?
Let's go.
Let's go?
Yeah.
All right.
Grandiose aims, but puny abilities. Great ambition,
I'm
but little
tired.
talent.
Yes.
Jiang Qing realized that she was being dropped. In her operas, Jiang Qing had gone back into China's past. Her aim had been to rework them, to express a new kind of revolution. But in reality, she had reawakened a dark and poisonous violence that had lurked under the surface of China for hundreds of years. It was driven by a resentment of the rigid hierarchies that the revolution had not really changed. Mao had not given her, or anyone else, guidance about what to do with the fury that she had summoned up. And now she knew why. He had simply been using her, and the violence that she created, as a way of destroying all opposition. He had no other vision of how to solve the old divisions and resentments in China. His only aim had been to get rid of all his rivals in the party. Jiang Qing had been betrayed yet again.
Those look so cool.
The members of the Red Army faction were now planting bombs and robbing banks all across West Germany. They announced that they had now become Maoists, followers of Mao Zedong, and they were going to awaken the popular masses. The government were desperate to catch them. They turned to a man who said he knew how to find them. He was called Horst Herold. He was the head of a tiny federal crime investigation unit. It had no real power, because any national police system was prohibited by law to stop Nazism from ever re-emerging. But Herold insisted that the only way to catch the terrorists hidden in the cities was to reintroduce control from the centre. His solution was to use a computer, because there was no law to stop that. Working day and night inside a protected complex, Herold created a giant computer network that monitored the movements of millions of people. He also fed into the computer vast amounts of data, not just about the terrorists themselves, but others, who in his words, represented a danger. Individuals the data showed might become terrorists in the future. From all this, Herold created what he called logical sequences, patterns drawn from the data that predicted where the terrorists might be hiding in the cities. What he had invented was a new, rational bureaucracy, working from the centre, in which information was controlled. It was the start of mass electronic surveillance, and it caught the terrorists. But Horst Herold was not just an unthinking technocrat. By studying all the data, he had, he believed, come to understand that the terrorists were just a tiny part of something much bigger that was happening all across the world. Something that those in power did not yet comprehend. And in 1973, he made an extraordinary speech that laid out the world that he saw coming. The violence and the horror that the terrorists created, he said, did not just happen because of something evil or sick inside their heads. It was a reaction to the new system of power that was rising up across the world. It was the system that the radicals had identified in the 1960s, the new global networks of multinational corporations and international finance that they believed were ruthlessly exploiting the world. If you want to get rid of the terrorism, Herold said, there are two alternatives. You either use political power to change and reform that global system, or you decide to systematically control the people, and their anger and their discontent. But to do that, you would have to create surveillance networks, like the one he had built, but on a global scale. In Notting Hill, all the politics had gone. The counterculture had transformed completely into a new kind of consumerism, with self-expression at its heart. Michael X left London in disgust, and he went back to Trinidad. He moved into a large house hidden away in the suburbs. He said that he was going to set up a new radical organisation, called the University of the Alternative. But it was clear that he was in a manic state of mind, and increasingly paranoid. Then one night, the compound burned down, and Michael X disappeared. The police found a hidden grave in the garden. In it was the body of one of Michael X's last disciples, Gail Benson, the daughter of a Conservative MP. She had discovered that Michael X's real plan was to grow marijuana and export it to the United States. So he had ordered a group of his men to kill her. He told one of them, Steve Yates, that she was an undercover agent from the CIA.
She was seized from behind and stabbed several times across the body with a knife. She was struggling very violently, and Steve Yates, who wasn't even supposed to be part of this particular operation, became impatient. He grabbed a cutlass, which in these parts is a long knife used for cutting sugarcane, and plunged it straight into her neck. Well, that was the fatal blow. The men then piled stones on top of her and filled in the rest of the grave. Sometime later, Malik phoned the house to see what the situation was, and Steve Yates simply told him the tree is planted.
Michael X fled to Guyana. He then headed south, away from the towns, down a small trail, past mining camps. His aim was to get to the river, and take a boat upriver into the jungle, where he would be safe. It was the same jungle that Edgar Mittelholzer had described in his story about the ghosts from the colonial past. There was one person who was about to show that even in the growing mood of paranoia and defeat, an individual who believed in the idea of revolution could take on the power of the state and defeat it. One morning, armed police stormed into Ophélie Chaqueur's apartment and arrested her. All the other members of her cell were also arrested. They were charged with what the government said was a giant plan to destroy those elements of society which the defendants call the power structure. It included attacking police stations and planning to bomb 5 large department stores and the Bronx Botanical Gardens. They became known as the Panther 21. Their trial was held in a state of paranoia about further attacks by the Panthers. But it also caused a sensation when it was revealed that 3 of the founding members of the group had been undercover police officers. What was stranger was that some of those officers seemed to have been unaware that there were other undercover agents in the cell. They were also the most active members of the group. We had to organise everything, one of the undercover agents explained at the trial, because everyone else in the group was off doing what they called their own shit.
Why didn't we watch this movie?
The prosecution claimed that the group had been inspired by violent revolutionary propaganda, and in particular by the film The Battle of Algiers, made about the...
Alright, so we just watched the, 40-minute to 60? Yeah, so we're at the 1 hour mark. Any comments? Acting?
Yes, reading my notes.
Go ahead.
John Ching can't get no breaks.
John who?
John Ching.
Oh, John Ching. Oh, Mal's wife, yes.
Yes. She can't get no breaks.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that, Harold, he was, I guess, like the first digital Nazi hunter.
Wow.
In a way, but then his whole thing ended up being really shitty because it enabled like mass surveillance by
But he wasn't hunting Nazis though. He was hunting
leftists.
Yeah, he was hunting anti-Nazis. He made that computer system was to hunt down the RAF. The RAF were the leftists who were trying to kill the Nazis in Western Germany.
Oh damn! Then he was like a racist.
No, he wasn't.
An anti-Semite.
No,
I am so confused.
He was a businessman.
No, he was a cop doing his job and using this new technology called computers to track down where these terrorists might be.
Anyway, I just wrote technocrat revolution fucked up from the beginning.
Okay.
But yeah, like it. I guess even in my point, it doesn't really matter if he was the left or the right. Like it enabled at the end mass surveillance.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like what we're going through now.
There's like few phrases that almost everybody in the world would say, yeah, that's fucked up. Mass surveillance. What else? There's some phrases, few phrases that everybody say, yeah, that sucks.
I don't know, not having free healthcare.
Oh wow, okay. Medical bankruptcy. Student debt. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean Michael X, he's doing too much. I said like, yeah, he's insane. I don't know what he's trying to do, trying to sell weed to the US. Why is he trying to become richer? Like, yeah, his whole thing, I think, got flipped. And maybe it was never there, like that revolutionary or pro-black thought.
The Michael X movie with Terrence Howard or Aaron Pierre.
Oh, Terrence Howard.
Don't give him ideas.
Wait, what'd you say, Nelson?
Don't give Hollywood ideas, man.
No, that needs to be a movie. The only thing that holds it back is Terrence Howard cannot do a British accent, man. Me doing a British accent, I can't do it. I can't do a British accent.
Michael X didn't have that thick of a British accent.
It was a very Trini, Ghanaian, Jamaican uncle accent.
Yeah. What else did I say? Yeah, when it comes to like the Panther 21, I was thinking like, you know, how the powers are always trying to stop the revolution rather than giving groups what they want, which I feel like in the essence is much easier to do. But obviously it's about having power and keeping power and having capital and keeping capital. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, like rather than, you know, NYPD or the whole American FBI being scared that they're going to be like another attack by the Panthers. They could have just actually, you know, give them what they wanted, which was like rights and freedom for black people and for all oppressed groups. So how does that make sense? But obviously it does not.
Yeah, I wonder who on the Panther 21 is still living. That would be very interesting to know. I'd be very interested to know who's still alive from this group. And by the way, all these people were young as hell. Like the Panther 21, like barely anybody was over the age of 25 in this thing. So it gives you a lot of insight and inspiration too. You know what I mean? But yeah, Michael was tripping. Michael was out of control, bruh. But the movie is gonna be fire. We need to find a light-skinned like brother from the UK to do that movie. I would love to see that. But
what about that guy? Chiwetel Ejiofor or something?
Oh, yeah, the guy. I know who you're talking about. He has that long name. I know exactly who you're talking about. He was like in 12 Years a Slave, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the Solomon thing.
Yeah, the guy from 12 Years a Slave.
I think he could do it.
Yeah, he's from the UK too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this guy could play Michael X?
Yeah, but no, we need Terrence Howard.
We need Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard has that like little bit of evilness in him.
I mean, we'd have to change the
story. A little bit of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to change it from him being from London, UK, to like London, Texas. What?
Anyway, since you asked the question, there are notable surviving members of the Panther 21.
Really?
Yeah, and one of them is Dhoruba bin Wahad, and he's actually still an activist. He's an author and an activist. Jamal Joseph, he is now a film director, author, and a professor at Columbia University.
That's fire.
Sundiata Akoli. He was in prison until the age of 85.
That's horrible.
And he got out at 2022, so I'm just guessing he's enjoying life at this point. And Shaba is another surviving member, and he did like a documentary and I believe published books about the Panther 21.
That's fire. I gotta read that.
These are like the, I guess, most known survivors.
That's fire. That's fire. By the way, America's got political prisoners too, and free all political prisoners in the United States, including Nicolas Maduro. I repeat, free all political prisoners, close down Guantanamo Bay, and free Nicolas Maduro, for real. Anyway, what else? Any other comments? I thought it was very poetic how Michael X is going down the same stream that racist writer went down in the Amazon too.
Yeah.
That was very poetic. That was probably the best part.
I was gonna say that too.
No, it was the story. Like the characters in the story went down that river.
Yeah.
Not the real guy, I think.
Yeah. And those.
But it makes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm waiting.
No, those, I went on one of those, I went to Guyana many years ago, and those, Amazon rivers are like so scary, bruh. I took one of those boat tours to this place in a river called Essequibo, down the Essequibo River. It's a tributary to the Amazon, and they have these rainstorms that just randomly come because it's so tropical, and we almost died on that thing because the whole thing started filling up with water at the top, and the guys who were piloting the boat had to pick up the water with sticks, like knock the water out of the plastic with sticks, and like I really thought I was gonna die because like the water was like the edge of the boat was like this, and the water was like here of this river. I'm like, oh shit, it's done for me.
Wow.
And those shits are scary. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Low-key, that story in the beginning, and like, you know, how we're reminded now that in that place in Amazon, it reminded me of Aguirre.
Yeah, Nelson, you remember that film?
Yeah, The Wrath of God or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the scariest place on earth. That's where would you rather be? In the Amazon or
what?
I don't know.
Well, if
Epstein Island. Would you rather be in the Amazon or Epstein Island?
Now or when I was a kid?
Let's say now. You still look young, and Bill Clinton is still there.
Can I fight?
You can do whatever, but it's an island. You can keep on fighting, but
and I can swim.
Oh yeah, you go swim from Little St. John. Okay.
I mean, I can't fight an anaconda.
Okay.
You know, that's the problem.
Wow, Bill Clinton got an anaconda.
I would rather be in the Amazon.
You'd rather be in the Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least die with dignity.
Yes. Or not with dick in ya. Nelson, any other comments before we go to the next part?
Also, I thought it was interesting about that Harold guy.
Mm-hmm.
He came like with, you know, like in the movies, you have two paths. One's the evil path or the good path.
Mm-hmm.
And the character, like, sometimes it's the literal path, you know, like where you're gonna go, or a blue pill or red pill.
Mm-hmm.
And he came I know why there's all this terrorism and, you know, revolutionary violence and so forth. So maybe we could overthrow global capitalism, or we could just, you know, create global surveillance to repress and control anger. So we know which path was chosen and implemented, I guess. I really liked how, like the Freitas was in the same river as the story that we saw about the beginning. You know, it really much about that point about hunting and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like and about Shakur, you know, I guess the point of the state infiltrating them and setting them up is that, you know, that it just doesn't use that the state just doesn't just use revolutionary violence. You know, it helps create it. You know, so it can further help and justify repression. You know,
that's a good point. I think, you know, my opinion is still the same from yesterday. Like, this documentary is about how, you know, we try our best to create systems that promote individualism, but the individual still wants to try to be free, and not everybody's going to be in the system, be fully free. And that's what, you know, a lot of these people are struggling against. I think deep down inside, Michael X, he's dealing with the issue of being a black man in a white man's world. And it's a basic issue that all of us have, right? You know what I mean? And it just became he just started going mad because of it, I would say. And yeah, I don't know.
Or he was always a capitalist at heart.
Or and just wicked. And do you hate him more now that he killed a woman?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Over weed too. Over weed, man. Anyway. Shall we? We're going to watch the last 14 minutes. So we're going to watch the end and give like final commentary, final thoughts, because there's only 14 minutes left in the doc. And we're still watching on 1.5 speed. So we're going to let it run and then call it a day. So, all right.
To have been unaware that there were other undercover agents in the cell. They were also the most active members of the group. We had to organise everything one of the undercover agents explained at the trial, because everyone else in the group was off doing what they called their own shit. The prosecution claimed that the group had been inspired by violent revolutionary propaganda, and in particular by the film The Battle of Algiers, made about the Algerian struggle against French colonialism. They showed the film in the court. Unlike all the other Panthers, Afeni Shakur chose to defend herself, and at the end of the trial, she cross-examined the leading undercover agent. He was the man she had suspected from the start, Yedwar Saddam. His real name was Ralph White. A journalist who was in the courtroom wrote a book that described what happened. She started by getting White to admit that really most of the inspiration for the plots came from the undercover agents. Not only had they continually pushed for the violence and suggested the targets, but they had also arranged to buy the dynamite of yet another undercover agent. They had also arranged for the cars to transport the dynamite. But really, the plot to attack America had been created and driven by the American authorities. But then Afeni Shakur went further. She talked to White in the courtroom, not as a police officer, but as a comrade that she had spent 18 months with, and asked him about the activism that they had done together in the community. He said that he thought what they had done was powerful, inspiring, and he said, beautiful. She asked if he had misrepresented the Panthers to his police bosses. He said yes. She asked if he had betrayed the community. He said yes. When the jury was sent out, they talked for 40 minutes, came back and acquitted all the defendants. It was a powerful example of how an individual could challenge those in power and win.
It's a great picture.
And at the same time, the revelations of the trial of how the Panthers had been penetrated and manipulated fed the growing paranoia that was tearing the radical movement apart.
What?
Shooting and fucking are the same thing.
They claim that I'm violent, just cause I refuse to be silent. These hypocrites I haven't fit, cause I'm not violent, defiant. Envious because I will rebel against any oppressor, and this is known as self-defense. I show them my shit, they claim that I'm a lunatic. And when the shit is there, I'm the only going kid. Don't look at things, the truth is so plain to see. Cause I'm the nigga that you shout out all shake the beat. In every Jeep and every car, brother, start this. I'm never ignorant, getting those accomplished. The underground railroad, rolling up rock. This time the truth speak control, hurry up rock. I know the light, that the black girls is like tea. If this is what I listen about, it's what I gotta be. If you investigate the line, I know it's coming through.
All four, Jiang Qing, Afeni Shakur, Michael X and the German revolutionaries, had all set out to try and confront their societies and change the structure of power. But all of them, in different ways, had unleashed violence that was lurking underneath those societies. The roots of that violence lay back in the past, in anger and resentment against those in power who had made their different countries rich and powerful, but to do that had ruthlessly exploited others, and had kept much of the spoils for themselves. The violence had burst out in different ways, across whole societies, among groups, and inside the revolutionaries' own heads. But all of them became overwhelmed by the paranoia, the suspicion, and the horror that resulted. And all of them had failed in their aims. Now, those in charge of the societies wanted to get rid of that violence, to wipe it and hide it away. And in Germany, the revolutionaries were going to help them do it. In 1976, two of the remaining German revolutionaries helped Palestinians hijack an Air France plane. They flew it to Entebbe in Uganda. What happened next shocked the world. The terrorists took the hostages into the departure hall. Then they began to separate the Israeli passengers from the non-Israelis. The Israelis were the ones who would be executed if the plane was stolen. To the other radicals watching from inside prisons in Germany, who had dreamed of revolution, it seemed as if those dreams had now led them to behave exactly as the Nazis had done.
This is where
was it frightening to realise that that was happening?
Yeah, of course. Also very frightening. This is one of the main points in the development. The awareness that we are from the same stuff as the fascists were. We understood something. We understood that fascism is a component in all of us. But we don't know to handle this contradiction. We don't have any need to live with this evil part in ourselves.
The Israelis mounted a rescue at Entebbe. The hostages were saved, and the terrorists were killed. The Germans' behaviour in the hijack had an incredibly powerful effect on radicals and liberals all across the West. 3 years before, the man who had been chasing the terrorists, Horst Herold, had argued that the violence did not just come from inside them, that they were reacting to something that was happening in the world. But now, the revolutionaries and many of their supporters began to argue that maybe the violence was not in the system, it was inside them. A year later, a group of their supporters captured and killed a leading industrialist called Hans Martin Schleyer. He had also been a leading Nazi in the war. At the same time, 3 of the leading revolutionaries killed themselves in prison. In an extraordinary moment, on one day in October 1977, 2 funerals were held in the same city, Stuttgart. One was for the revolutionaries. Hundreds of their supporters flooded into the cemetery, watched by 1,000 armed police. The other was for Hans Martin Schleyer. The leaders of the industrial and financial establishment came together at a church in the centre of the city. It was a moment that dramatically symbolised what had happened. The industrialists and the bankers had come not just to mourn Schleyer, but to bury any idea of radical change in Germany. And for the radicals, it was the moment, after all the violence and all the failures, when pessimism finally took hold. It said that this is what all radical attempts to change the world inevitably lead to. And in the growing age of the individual, it led to the conclusion that the fault is inside you, the individual, not in society. Those who had wanted to change the world now began to turn inwards. This distrust was going to be reinforced by the growing influence of the psychologists, who said that human beings were really irrational and lived in a dream world. Out of that was going to come the modern system of power, in which psychology would join with economics and with finance to make sure that that dream world was managed. It would be a wonderful world to live in, but its weakness would be that at its root was a pessimism about human beings, and whether they should ever be allowed any control. While outside the dream world, the things that the revolutionaries had wanted to change so much, the inequalities, the racism and the exploitation, would all remain untouched, and would continue to grow unnoticed. But some of the revolutionaries saw what was happening, and adjusted. Eldridge Cleaver, who had been one of the leading Black Panthers, set up his own fashion company. He designed what he called revolutionary trousers. They had a flap at the front, which he said would liberate the penis. While his fellow revolutionary, Bobby Seale, became a celebrity chef.
Featuring the founding chairman of the Black Panther Party and guerrilla extraordinaire, Bobby Seale.
But one revolutionary was still not going to give up. Jiang Qing now joined with 3 others who had run the Cultural Revolution. They were determined to seize power when Mao died. They were known as the Gang of Four. And Michael X never made it to the river. He was captured and brought back to stand trial in Trinidad. He was found guilty of murder and hanged. And in the future, the violence and the anger would be played out in the artificial world of culture. It would be the images and the words of revolution. But in reality, nothing ever really changed. And what was forgotten in this new age, including by the psychologists who were exploring the self by drilling ever deeper, was that what you are and what you feel comes not just from inside you, but from where you are in the power structure, because that flows through you too.
When you see an individual white boy, you're not afraid of that individual white boy. What you are afraid of is the power that he represents. Because behind him stands the local police force, the state militia, the army, the navy, the air force. When you see an African, there is no power behind him. There is no one speaking for his interests. There is no one to protect him. The guerrilla studies! The guerrilla studies! He doesn't have to study to keep his mouth shut. Study till they say.
All right, so that's the end of part 2 of Can't Get You Out of My Head, the documentary series. What did you think of the acting? Any final comments?
Yeah, so just the beginning of this part, the last 14 minutes, they were talking about how the trial happened and ended, how they used the movie Battle of Algiers in court. I thought that's like, a little nod to arts and how they are able to affect us and spread awareness and spread peace and revolution. And they are important in our lives, even though at the end they sort of ended with like culture happens, but it doesn't affect anything. So it's kind of contradictory, in my opinion.
Yeah, Nelson, what were you saying?
The cops used the movie to say that they were watching the movie so they could justify violence. Because I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but like there's like a terrorist scene or so.
Yeah, I saw that movie. It's one of my I saw the movie. It's one of my favorites. Actor hasn't seen it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cops were using it for look at what these guys were watching,
Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, then it's also can be used as, propaganda because they know it's powerful. But yeah, and I was also thinking about, the problem with nations, like how American government would go to such lengths to give people what they deserve as human beings, to like put a spy there, and the spy has to put all these ideas in the group and suggest like terrorist attacks and all those sorts of things. When naturally, as humans, we should have all those rights, and then, we end up worshiping that nation that takes all the rights from us and then gives them little by little by saying, look, we're giving you rights, and because you're in this nation, you are free, or you are this and that. So it's very hypocritical as a concept.
One thing that I kind of don't like about the documentary series as a whole is that because they're pulling from so many different sources, places, times, countries, when they're talking about these very transformative eras, is that it makes it seem like it's kind of all-encompassing, right? Like you're getting a view into this is what was happening in the 60s, but like there was so much more too. Like in Italy, they had the years of lead when basically like the whole country was in like a civil war, a political civil war, right? And of course, Israel-Palestine was going on, many other struggles as well in Latin America. So there was a lot going on. And I feel like in this episode, they highlighted, Mexico, there was revolutions, Spain, whatever, right? But there was still a lot more going on in this world that was just that I feel like the documentary could highlight. You know what I mean?
Okay, if it had more events, it would be even more confusing.
Yeah, more events. But I guess, I don't know, just something to say like this is just a slice or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said in the previous one, every documentary has a point of view because you're picking out what you want to highlight and select. And in this case, he's picking these 3, 4, 5 stories and characters to weave a narrative together,
Yeah, it's like, in psychology research, you can't make a generalization from individual cases.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you need a certain amount to make a generalization. And like you said, just to take 4 cases and then make a generalization about humans is a bit hard.
Right. But I do think that, in the documentary, he said that, these 4 people wanted to change the world and fight against the racism, capitalism, whatever, and they used violence, and the violence sort of worked against them. And he highlighted, the RAF hijacking that plane, sending it to Uganda, then they murder the people, like, right there in front of them, like, like, the film, I think the film highlights that very important part of contradiction and how maybe going too far can cause problems for the South. You know what I mean?
Yeah, trying to fight the monster and then you become the monster.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so, but what I'm kind of conflicted with, because this film is like so focused on contradictions, like you said, culture created this thing, but culture also does nothing. Right?
Yeah.
Because the film gives like a yes and no answer, it just ends up creating more confusion, and then it leaves you sort of still saying, well, I guess there's no other choice, or there's no other option.
Yeah, they did that with violence too, because first they said, okay, all of us have violence inside, and it's just like not the society, it's the individual violence that creates the problem. And then at the end they said that that individual violence matters because of your position in the society.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it, I don't know. They said it like that. So it's like, okay, so now it is the society and not the individual.
Right.
Or it is the system and not the individual.
Because
violence is bad, but sometimes you will say, or anyone will say, oh yeah, you are right to get angry because it was unfair, because it was not just.
I feel like this episode here plays a little trick on us by talking about the research of that psychologist who said we just get a bunch of information and we're trying to make sense of it. Essentially, that's what we're giving here too. A bunch of information, and we like to think we're rational, so we try to rationalize and put a nice bow tie or ribbon on everything we get. But this thing is so messy, it's hard to really package it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I think the objective of this type of media is. If you can't wrap it up, you just say, man, fuck it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, you say, oh, yeah, it's all fucked up. But I don't know. Nelson, any comments?
I think it ended on a real nice twist, right? And something that we all do, I guess. Because early in the episode, the thesis was that violence was in the system, you know, almost this depersonalized thing. It was colonialism, imperialism, Nazi what? Bureaucracy. That continued or was reborn through capitalism, and that the welfare state in Germany, I guess, and many other countries in Europe, I guess, also, were built on exploitation of the third world, right? And that the regular people are they're like little babies. They're pacified by a dream world, right? Like they're pacified by consumerism, sex, and whatever media. But like in the twist in the end was that, and then the revolutionaries just not like us. We know we're the ones who see things clearly, and we're the ones who are attacking the system. But but the end there's a twist because the clean separation between the good guy, the good revolutionary, and the evil system, it collapses. Because they see that the same authoritarian, violent, scapegoating impulse that they hate in the system, not like they hated in the Nazis, is actually also not only in the system, but that there's also inside of them. It isn't just a capitalist state or just the bourgeoisie. It's also a potential within every human being. And I don't think they were and also if you think about it, that collapses their foundation. It decapitates them, right? Because there's no pure endpoint outside the system, right? From which someone can do can clean violence, right? Because cleaning violence can become the repetition of what you're claiming you want to destroy, and most of them they're not able to solve this contradiction, right? They collapse under it. But we see in the exception in Shakur, because he treats like the cop. She forces him to conscious. She forces him outside of this role. She forces herself out of this revolutionary woman wants to take down the whatever role, and she forces the cop out of this role. She says, "Didn't you live with us for 18 months? Didn't you help the community? Didn't we feed the community? Didn't you betray us?" And this wasn't just legal skill, because she did this without a lawyer, It's the kind of framing which collapses like the roles which we ourselves put ourselves into, and we bring empathy and morality and doing the right thing into conscious, And in less than an hour, 40 minutes, I think, everyone was acquitted, So from everyone in this documentary, she's the closest that we have to a real hero who fights against the system and wins.
Yeah, I mean, Afeni does end up looking better than Michael X. Like who would have thought that? But when you talk about collapsing, the revolutionary and the evil system that they're fighting against, they both collapse into being morally equivalent because they both, do horrific violence. I think in and of itself, we do a disservice to basically people by collapsing all violence as equally bad.
There's not That's not what I'm really arguing. I'm not making like I'm not putting on a balance which is worse and which is less bad. I guess it's simply what you try to purge in others is also within yourself.
But I would say, I have the capability to do violence, or me and my group might have the capability to do violence, but my violence could be more justified or less justified than somebody else's violence, I would say. And I don't.
That's for sure, of course.
In that story that they were talking about when the RAF flew that plane to Uganda, the IDF was involved in getting those people safely out of there. Do you know who was a very famous soldier who was a part of that operation?
You gonna say like Netanyahu or something?
Netanyahu was there. Young Benjamin Netanyahu was there with his brother, who was also a very famous IDF special operations soldier. And Netanyahu survived, and his brother was killed during the extraction of those Zionist or Israeli citizens, right? Now,
did the wrong brother die?
I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Though, I think we would all agree here, taking hostages is bad.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to be hostages on a plane and people put guns to our heads, right? But we would also argue that Netanyahu is probably the worst single person who's living on the planet right now.
Next to Trump, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, in a sense, right, if we think about them and morally equivocate, the young people who were taking those hostages, or Bibi Netanyahu, like what would have been worse had they been killed or Netanyahu died on that fateful day in 1960, whatever? Would the world be a better place? I don't know. You know what I mean? I think there's a strong argument that actually, the wrong person died. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I don't know, but who knows? Like, his he could have been dead, and his brother could have been the other Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you could also argue that it doesn't matter if it's Netanyahu or Simon Hill as a leader of Israel. Israel's going to do what it's going to do because that's the point of the state and the nation.
Yeah.
They could have all died, and the same things could have still happened because that's the function of the state.
I don't think it erases like structural asymmetry because the state is older, more organized, just like more powerful in January. But I think it does kill moral purity, which is kind of elemental to these to the image of a lot of these revolutionary groups.
Well, once again, I think this documentary is pretty good. Overall, I'm enjoying it. Did you enjoy it, acting?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mindfuck, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around what is happening, and also I feel like you guys know more about like political history than I do. So sometimes it's like a bit hard to make sense of things. Yeah. I don't have the background information.
No, I just know a lot of random ass trivia, and I'm sure Nelson does too. You know what I mean?
I can see that. Yeah. That's why I don't have that.
So
at least about political history.
Yeah.
I know stuff that makes you look smart in a dinner with white people. I don't have a deep history. I don't have a deep history of knowledge.
But one thing,
I don't have a deep knowledge of history.
One thing I enjoyed was how I guess like psychologists was integrated into this whole system or world system or the I don't know. It's like a tool that helps us understand people, but it's also a tool that could be used against people or people's liberty. So it's a very, I don't know. I like my profession, and I think it's interesting to have it like in a political and, in a political documentary like this. It's like, it kind of goes hand in hand, which is like something to think about.
We're about to cut it short, but I want to ask you very quickly, very briefly. This is something I heard on the left recently. the argument from the left is that psychology and therapy are useless and not important because all psychological conditions right now are derived from our alienation and fucked up situation we're in under capitalism. So anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, these are creations of being in a capitalist system. And so therefore we shouldn't be saying to individuals, go talk to your therapist. We should be trying to break the system. Real quickly, what's your response to that?
Okay, obviously, even as a psychologist, I'm also trying to break the system. So yeah, that should be part of like every individual, every occupation, I think. But that to me doesn't make sense, because what about like, I don't know, trauma or sexual violence survivors? Like, did that also happen under capitalism? There might be something there, but you know, it's not all psychological diseases that happen because of capitalism. And yeah, even though it is caused by capitalism, it doesn't mean we shouldn't be like solving it or helping those people. So that doesn't make sense. You can still be a revolutionary, or you can still try to break the system, meanwhile helping someone with anxiety or PTSD. Why would you have to choose one or the other? I don't understand.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
a good answer. That's a good answer. Yeah, Nelson, any comments?
I mean, before mine, what do you think, Simon?
About that topic?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's grandma is gonna die, and it's gonna crash their world, even under fully automated luxury communism. You know what I mean? When everything is set and straight and the revolution is won, somebody is still gonna be heartbroken because their dog died, and they're gonna need somebody to talk to.
Also, there could be like revolutionary psychology, you know, where like in the documentary they were talking about, you can't change anybody's mind with radical explanation, but you can with psychology and therapy. So, you know, why not use that as a weapon for revolution?
Yeah.
Why not have a therapy session with a bigot and try to solve
And honestly, I find it hard to believe the idea that all psychological issues exist solely because of capitalism. Because I honestly believe there were sociopaths before modern capitalism, and psychopaths, and you know, there were serial killers, serial rapists, kleptomaniacs, you know, schizophrenic people. Like, those things existed before, you know, Walmart. Yeah. Like, sometimes we give capitalism too much power. Like, we think it's too all-consuming. Because since capitalism came into existence, we've been resisting it, too. And it's not all everything. It's a big-ass superstructure, but it's not everything in our lives.
We've been resisting it, but we're also sucked into it.
Yes, a lot of us are influenced by it. And I do think there's some credence to the idea. You know, like there's now phobias that didn't exist. There's nomophobia, the fear of the phone, you know, or the fear of not having your phone. Laptop phobia, scared of laptops, or the fear of unemployment. Like, that's a real phobia, and that's directly derived from capitalism.
Yeah, of course. Some of them are derived from capitalism, but some of them are not. So to put them in one category does not make sense.
Yeah. But, yeah, any other comments? Anything else? Nelson?
I think just really quickly, I do think that, like, there's certainly a narrative distrust of psychology in this documentary series, right? I think you can pick up on that quite easily. But I think if I had to ask, it would say, like, the Adam Curtis, I think he would say, like, the problem isn't psychology, is that psychology makes people think that the problem is rather inside the individual, rather than its conditions outside of him, and people so therefore try to change the individual, but instead it should be changing also the fucking conditions. But just real quickly, I would like to recommend a movie that I haven't seen, but I like to recommend because Michael X is a character there. It's a movie. The bank job. The bank job with Jason Statham.
Okay.
And yeah, he's a character in the movie. It's about a bank robbery.
All right, we're on it.
We'll check it out.
We'll check it out. I'm interested. Who plays Michael X in the movie?
The guy named Peter D. Jersey.
Okay, American, British, you know.
Probably gotta be British.
Gotta be
I'm
British.
gonna pick an American guy.
Very interested to see what Michael X, the most important black man in Europe, what he had to say. Okay. All right, well, this has been another live call-in show. We might go live tomorrow for episode 3. Y'all let me know if y'all want me to bring Acti out, since that's who y'all care about. Y'all didn't hear nothing I had to say. I just wanted to hear her, but she's smart. She's smart. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Nelson, like always, and hopefully you join for episode 3.
Yeah, I'll join. Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah, no problem, man. Y'all be easy out there, and peace.